Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It is an awesome honor and privilege, guys, as it is every single day, as you and I and all of us gather from around the world, a bunch of international friends getting together to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, and all that sorts of good stuff. And we are joined, of course, once again by the one and the only, the master of fun and wonder, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert?
John, I'm just excited. I think I want to just watch The Irishman all weekend long on Netflix. Just one viewing after another.
Yeah, I haven't started watching it yet. I mean, obviously, I don't have 3.5 hours between late last night and now to sit down and start watching it. But I'm going to try to watch The Irishman probably before I go to bed tonight. I'm going to try to squeeze in those hours. I'm looking forward to watching it. It's now out. Everybody can see it. So there you go. Hey, listen, guys, we do have a whole bunch of good stuff that we need to talk about here today. We're going to talk about Pikachu and Alita. You know, both films did okay, not great, highly anticipated. Which one of them has the higher chance of getting a sequel? Elizabeth Banks. She's got a new movie coming out. She's going to be working on. She's going to be starring in and directing The Invisible Woman. We're going to be talking about that a little bit. Who are the Frontrunners for the Best Actor Academy Award this year? We're going to talk about that and a few things more as well. So let's not waste any time, guys, and go right into our main questions. But before we get into our main topics today, I just want to remind you guys, if at any time you want to send in a question for the live chat portion of the show, that's going to be in the second half of the show, go ahead, look in the first line of the description below. You'll see a link to a tip page. Go ahead, use that link, and insert your question there. We'll get to it. Or you can use the super chat feature here on YouTube, and we will get to your question today. All right. With that down, let's move on to our main topics today. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, you see, it's really rather simple. You guys come up with them by simply going over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, fill out the form with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. All right, with that down, let's move on to our first main topic today. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Anthony Gomez, who writes, "Hi, John. We're getting close to the end of the year, and the nominations for the Academy Award will be here shortly. I believe that James McAvoy deserves recognition for his work on Glass. Although the movie wasn't received well, do you agree? And who else do you think might be underlooked this year for his amazing for an amazing performance?" All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, Anthony. And listen, I got to tell you what, not a big surprise, not a big secret. I am not the biggest fan of Glass. I was not a huge fan of Glass. I didn't think it was one of the best films of the year. I was actually, to be honest with you, and to be frank, I was actually a little bit disappointed by it, especially coming off of Split, which I thought was actually really quite good. But the one thing about Glass was James McAvoy's performance. I thought it was better than his performance in Split. I thought he was absolutely incredible in that, Rob. But I'll tell you right now, I do not believe at all that he's got a shot at getting one of the top 5 spots this year. I just don't think he's got a shot at that. I don't think it's going to happen. We'll go over who I believe will be the nominees here in a bit. But Rob, as you look back at McAvoy's performance this year, where would you put it somewhere, generally, where would you put it on the scale? And do you think there's any shot that he could get maybe an award nomination for it?
Well, he's an incredible performer, and both in Split and in Glass, he was tremendous. But it's not the kind of performance that the Academy goes for. You know, I think Academy voters tend to go for things that sort of transcend the time they're made, more of like a universal a performance for the ages. And while McAvoy was doing something that was truly amazing, it was sort of showy and it was genre related, you know, split personalities and all that, but it was split personality in the service of basically a superhero movie. You know, he's playing a monster. And you're going to be hard pressed, I think, to get the Academy voters to look at that performance and consider it as great as, say, Joe Pesci's in The Irishman.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. That'll be absolutely tough. And to be honest with you, I thought he was incredible in it. But
me too.
This year, I feel like we say this every year. Oh my God, the running is stacked. But with that in mind, let's take a look. Who are the front runners? Who is the most likely to be getting the nominations this year? This is, I believe, and I gather this because I also, not from my own personal judgment and experience, but also because I've looked at a lot of the main award season trackers,
right,
who are usually not always 100%, but very, very close. And here's basically I believe that your de facto, when I look through it, of your favorites in the running. You got, I believe Joaquin Phoenix is in the running with most people. I believe he will get one of those 5 nomination spots. Adam Driver. Now, I have not seen Marriage Story yet, but all the trackers are putting Adam Driver up in that top 5 spot. Then you're looking at a Leonardo DiCaprio for Once Upon, again, not my favorite movie of the year by any stretch, but man, him and Brad Pitt were so freaking good. So freaking good. You're also going to be looking at, there seems to be great consensus that Robert De Niro is going to get a nomination for his participation in The Irishman. Again, I haven't seen The Irishman yet. And then Jonathan Pryce for another film that I did not think was the best, but Jonathan Pryce for The Two Popes. Now, some of the other people, they're saying that these awards prognosticators are calling out as possible dark horses to get in and get those spots. You're talking about Matt Damon and Christian Bale for Ford v Ferrari, because they're both in the running for Best Lead Actor. Michael B. Jordan is getting a lot of buzz for Just Mercy. I don't believe he should, but I thought Taron Egerton was very good in Rocketman. I don't think he should, but a lot of people are saying he's got that outside shot. Antonio Banderas for Pain and Glory. Robert Pattinson for The Lighthouse, and he was incredible in that. And Adam Sandler is getting a lot of talk for Uncut Gems as well. So it is a massively stacked, when you look at all those names, and you're talking about needing to get James McAvoy to bump a lot of those out, it's going to be a very, very hard uphill battle. And even if, Rob, even if the Best Lead Actor category was likened unto the Best Picture category, where you can have up to 10 nominees, which they don't, they only have 5, even then I think it would be a difficult thing. What do you think about the prognosticators? Do you think that looks pretty much like it's probably going to shake out, or do you think there's any dark horses being left out there?
No, I think that what we're looking at is, I mean, you'd think with all the great performances we have this year, but it's pretty clear who rises to the top, especially if you're an Oscar lover and you're watching and you've watched over the years. This is, in your graphic there, that's a really solid group of actors. And even, like you said, the second tier people, it's anybody's, it's a horse race, but I think there's about 10 performances that we can guarantee we're going to see 5 of those in the Best Actor category. Right.
And McAvoy's probably is not one of them.
I don't think so. I mean, as much as, look, McAvoy was great, but it was a different kind of a performance than what people normally go for. You know, it's more, I hate to say it, but there still is a prejudice against science fiction, fantasy, horror, just like there's a prejudice against that kind of it's a showy performance.
Well, and yet at the same time, we're going to get another comic book movie performance that probably will get one of those nominations in Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. And I would argue, I think the 2 frontrunners are probably going to be, again, I have not seen Irishman, so I may change my tune after this, but from what all the prognostications I'm seeing, it seems like right now the 2 frontrunners are probably Joaquin Phoenix and Robert De Niro. So it will be Robert De Niro, who also appeared in Joker.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a little bit of a joke. So it's going to be interesting to see. Question here is, guys, what do you think about all this? Do you think those will probably be the top 5? Do you have a different list? What do you think about that? Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our second main topic today. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Maxie S., who writes, "Hi, JC and crew. Among the movies that made $400 million worldwide this year, only 2 were originals. I don't know how original you can call them, but Warner Brothers' Detective Pokemon, or Detective Pikachu, I should say, and Fox's Alita Battle Angel. Which do you think is more likely to get a sequel eventually?" You know what? That's a really interesting question.
Yeah, it is.
Because both of these movies are movies that, when you're going into them, carried a lot of promise. There was a lot of potential for both. Rob, I remember I had people screaming at me till they were blue in the face, insisting Pikachu was going to be a $1 billion film. I mean, you saw it. You saw the comments we were getting.
Oh, I did.
John, you just don't understand how big the poke. No, I do, but that doesn't always automatically translate onto thing. I mean, it might. Who knows? But I don't think it will, and it didn't. But sometimes we think movies won't, and they do. And maybe that could have happened with Pikachu. Alita Battle Angel, I believe, suffered a lot from a terrible first trailer that it was just never able to recover. And so now you're sitting here with these two movies. Which of these two is more likely to get it? Well, there was a report back in May that Detective Pikachu, which made $431 million worldwide, which isn't terrible, which, hey, it's not bad. Even though it was a pretty high budget movie, that ain't bad. That's not bad. But it's nowhere near what they were kind of thinking the potential of that movie could be. So that made about $431 million. Then you get Alita Battle Angel made $404 million. I'll tell you this right now. I think the movie that I preferred out of these two was Alita Battle Angel. I think I preferred it more. And you know how excited I was for Detective Pikachu. I was really excited. I'm going to be honest with you. I was a little underwhelmed by it. It certainly has its moments, but I was a little let down by it because I thought the trailers were fantastic. So neither one of them made the sort of money that demands a sequel. There's more drama with Alita Battle Angel, Rob, because of the whole Fox being taken over by Disney. So that adds another layer to it, and that throws some more question marks at it. As far as Pikachu goes, there was a report back in May-ish, I should say, somewhere back in May-ish, that there was going to be, that they were moving ahead. The studio was moving ahead. Warner Brothers was going to move ahead. Now, unfortunately, those reports were never substantiated, so there was never any verification of that actually happening. So what's going to happen there, I have no idea. I would gotta guess, though, that if I had to guess which one had the better chance of getting a sequel, I think it would be Detective Pikachu. And for a couple of reasons. One, it's big family-friendly stuff. That's good. It's a solid IP name. That's good. The first one didn't do bad. That's good. And then when you with Alita Battle Angel, you throw in that extra complication with the takeover of Disney, and we just don't know what Disney's approach to that would be or if they want to have anything to do with it. So I think both of these could get sequels. But I think the more likely scenario is that Pikachu gets the sequel. Rob, you're looking at these two things. Neither of them blew the doors off box office wise, but didn't, have nothing to be ashamed of box office wise. I thought Alita was the better movie, but which one of these two do you think has the better shot at getting number two?
Well, I think this is really a case where both of these movies, it's their afterlife that I think might decide. They can tell if a movie's doing really well streaming, that it has an audience. I think more than Pikachu, Alita is a movie that people are going to discover over time. And when it's on streaming services, they'll find out, they'll see exactly the analytics of how many people are watching and who's watching. And I think Alita could, based on that afterlife, I think we might see a sequel. They're going to have to bring the budget down, but now they have the methodology in place. They know what they have to do. But then on the other hand, the same is true of Pikachu. People who didn't run out and see it in the theater are going to find it. Kids are going to find it. People are going to watch it. And I think it really depends on which film over the next year has the better afterlife. And that was really true in like the VHS world. Terminator was a huge hit on home video. So they knew it was a pretty big hit in the theaters too, but they knew that they could make Terminator 2 and have it be a $100 million movie. That has always been true when they look at films. If they get Pacific Rim, another movie that didn't do quite as well as it should have, but it had a bigger afterlife both in foreign territories and on home video, warranted a sequel. I wish the sequel was better, but I love Pacific Rim, so I was happy to see it get a sequel. So I could see both of these movies getting sequels, but I would hope, from my perspective, I'd like to see another Alita.
That would be the one I would vote for as well. The question is, guys, what did you think about both of those films? Which one did you prefer? And more importantly, separating it from which one you liked more, when you look at the numbers and you look at the current circumstances, which one do you think actually has the better chance of getting a sequel done? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. All right, with that down, let's move on to our third main topic today. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Nicholas Trevino II, who writes, "Hey, John. So apparently Michael B. Jordan is in talks with Warner Brothers to play Superman. What do you think about this, especially since Henry Cavill is apparently returning to the DCEU? Thanks, and bring on the filthy." All right, Nicholas, first of all, there's a lot wrong with your email. There are two factual problems with your email. Number one is that Michael B. Jordan is not currently in talks. These are talks that have happened, and maybe there's secret stuff going on. Number two, Henry Cavill is not returning as the Man of Steel. That's not to say that he won't eventually. He simply says that he hasn't given up on the role yet. Warner Brothers has certainly made no overtures to say that they're actually bringing him back. So both could turn out to be situational, but as of right now, those are not factual. Rob, this all comes out of a article that came out the other day talking about what's coming up for the DC universe. And it's brought up a number of significant topics, one of which we talked about yesterday. But one of the things that was thrown into that article was also talking about the future of Superman and what's going on with that. And it's raised some eyebrows. Now, you remember some time ago, there were some rumors about maybe Michael B. Jordan as a Superman. Well, it looks like there was a little bit of something to it. Because here's what the report says in Variety. This is coming from Variety magazine. To help find a way to make Superman relevant to modern audiences, Studio Brass has been polling lots of high-profile talent. There have been discussions with J.J. Abrams, whose company Bad Robot recently signed a massive first-look deal with the studio. And there was a meeting with Michael B. Jordan. Here's the key part. There was a meeting with Michael B. Jordan earlier this year with the Creed star pitching Warner's on a vision for the character. However, Michael B. Jordan isn't ready to commit to taking on the project since filming doesn't seem to likely to happen for several years, and he has a full dance card full of projects. All right, Rob, this is far more tangible. Now, again, Variety is saying that Warner Brothers and Michael B. Jordan actually sat down and talked about this. And the way they formed the language is that it's Jordan that's kind of holding things up, saying he's not ready to commit to it because it doesn't seem like they would be ready to shoot for a while or shoot till a certain time. And his dance card right now is kind of full. So there's all that. It suggests a couple of things. The first thing it sort of suggests is that despite what Henry Cavill is saying, it really does like Warner Brothers is actively in the process of moving on from Henry Cavill as Superman, which sucks because Henry Cavill's my all-time favorite Superman, but that's well established. So there's that. The Michael B. Jordan thing, again, raises an interesting question. Look, before I give my overall thought on Jordan possibly as a Superman, let me throw a couple of things out there first, just to lay the groundwork for my opinion, okay? For those of you who say, Superman in the comic books is white. Well, actually, he's not. Sort of. There is a DC Comics version of Superman. It's the Earth 23 Superman, Kal-El, not Kal-El, but Kal-El, who is indeed black. And his name is Calvin Ellis. He was found by the Ellis family, actually. And he is a black Superman in the DC Comics. So there goes that. You guys also know my underlying argument about this is the fact that Superman is not white. Sorry, he's not white. Caucasians are humans. Superman is an alien organism. He's not white. He ain't black. He ain't Asian. He ain't anything you would associate with being a human being. He is a completely alien organism that, as far as our regular understanding of him, takes on the appearance of a Caucasian male, but there is nothing about the character that is white. Sorry, it's just true. To the response, and I've seen this one many, many times, that some people would say, for instance, just in my own chat board today, I got into a discussion with one of our viewers who said, if they try to cast a white actor to play Black Panther, people will get really upset. And I said, but that's a false comparison. Because Black Panther, the Black Panther, who is a prince of an African nation, it is core and essential to that character and who and what that character is, that he be black. Just like if you were to do a JFK movie, it is core and essential that you cast a white actor to play the role. However, if you wanted to reboot Lethal Weapon and have Murtaugh, which is played by Danny Glover, and recast that character as a white character, I got no problem with that. It doesn't matter because, honestly, Murtaugh being black, really, there's nothing core and essential about Murtaugh that absolutely is essential that character is black or white or Asian or whatever. Doesn't matter. Superman is an alien organism who does have foundation in the comic books to being a black character if you wanted to go that route. So, listen, I don't care. What I don't understand is, why do people care? Like, everybody got over and is perfectly fine that Hugh Jackman played Wolverine. Hugh Jackman is a giant. Wolverine is supposed to be, what, 4'11"?
Yes, he's small.
He's supposed to be very small. Everybody got over that.
Hence his name, Wolverine.
Right, yes. So, but nobody cared. Because the height didn't matter. As long as you capture the essence of who Wolverine is, and Hugh Jackman did it. But we will freak out about, wait a minute, the tone of his skin pigmentation isn't exactly right. We have a problem with. Anyway. So all that being said, I don't know that I see Michael B. Jordan as a Superman. Now, it's not because he's black. It's not because he's not a talented actor. He is. And I always say talent first. So if they announced Michael B. Jordan was playing a new version of Superman tomorrow, and it's Michael B. Jordan, hey, the most important thing is you get a talented actor. This guy is an Oscar caliber level actor, and he's going to have Oscars on his mantle before his career is done. That's fine. That's great. I don't particularly see him as a great fit for the role, myself personally. But it'd be interesting. Look, and you cannot deny that they have done Superman every single way they possibly can. They did it in the 40s, they did it in the 50s, they did it in the 60s, they did it in the 70s, they did it in the 80s, they did it in the 90s, and now we're in the 2000s. They've tried it, and they've done it the same way every single time. And that's great. I wouldn't necessarily be against them trying something a little bit different. Take a crack at it. As long as you maintain, I've always said this about every character, Rob, the core essential elements about what makes that character who they are. And I'm sorry, but whether his skin pigmentation is more light or dark is not a core essential element to what makes that character, to making Superman who he is. That's not relevant at all. So if they want to take another crack at it, I'm fine. Now look, if I'm making a movie tomorrow, Rob, if Warner Brothers gets a hold of me tomorrow and they say, Campea, you're the guy. How it took us this long to realize that, we don't know. But we need you to make our new Superman movie. Well, the very first thing I'm doing is I'm picking up my phone and calling Henry Cavill. Well, first I'm asking, can you please give me Henry Cavill's phone number? Then I'm immediately picking up my phone and I'm calling Henry Cavill. And I'm saying, dude, get that cape out of your closet. You're back on. And if not Henry Cavill, I will admit, as a director myself directing a Superman movie, I probably go more traditional. I probably go with the more traditional Caucasian actor playing Superman. That's probably the approach I take. But I'm not against somebody else taking another shot at it and doing it a different way. But anyway, that's just kind of my thoughts on that. Rob, you're seeing this story. Warner Brothers and Michael B. Jordan actually sat down at table and discussed these options. Warner Brothers seems to be actively trying to find ways to move on from the Henry Cavill Superman, which hurts my heart. But what do you think about all this? How do you interpret it?
Well, first of all, that character, I think he was introduced in the New 52.
Yes, he was.
I think. Has, first of all, a great costume, has a great story. And like we saw with Miles Morales in Into the Spider-Verse, you can do a character that has a precedent for appearing in a comic book, put them on screen, and have it work. You know, it really comes down to a great character and a great story. And look, as a straight man, I'll admit, I have a man crush on Michael B. Jordan. He's a fine specimen of human being. I mean, look at how ripped he was in Creed. That guy looks good. I've been a fan of his since Friday Night Lights. He would fill out that costume quite nicely. And that character has a really interesting story. What happens to him, where he's at in terms of his status in American society. It's very interesting. So to me, if they were going to go that route, I'd be like, wow, that's cool. That's really interesting. Now, I would understand that we're probably getting a different version of the Superman that we know, just like Miles Morales is a different version of Spider-Man, but nobody sits there and goes, Miles Morales can't be Spider-Man. His version of Spider-Man is really good. I'd love to see a live-action version of Miles Morales. I loved it when he was introduced in the comics. So to me, I think a Michael Jordan Superman movie could freshen up the whole idea of what Superman could be. Why not? You've got the comic precedent to look at. Now, here's another thing. Would I want that character to supplant Clark Kent that we know and love and that has been part of American society? Probably not. Only because I love that character. I love the various incarnations I've seen of that character. Before I saw Superman the movie, I saw George Reeves in The Adventures of Superman from the 50s, and I loved that as a kid. So there is an ingrained version of Superman that has existed that I would like to see, like you, Henry Cavill, carry on. I don't think he has ever received his due, especially lately. I'd love to have seen another Brandon Routh Superman movie, and I certainly would love to see Henry Cavill take on the role. Now, I could see both characters existing. Why not? If they give us a good movie and we like it, is the Joker, is Arthur Fleck's Joker the real Joker, or is he another incarnation of the Joker?
Just another incarnation.
Certainly not Jack Nicholson's Joker. Certainly not Heath Ledger's. I mean, it depends on the character and the story. And to me, if that's the way they want to go, and you've got filmmakers and an actor who are passionate about the project, we could only get, hopefully, a great movie out of it. That's something we haven't seen before. And I'm all for that.
All right, guys. Question here is, now, by the way, I think this is an important thing for us to all keep in mind. It looks like this isn't going to happen. It looks like this isn't going to happen. So it's just an interesting theoretical discussion about the events that took place over at Warner Brothers. But Rob, would you agree with me that between the talks with JJ, talking with Michael B. Jordan, does it kind of become clear that it seems that they're moving on from the Henry Cavill Superman at this point?
I think probably, but that doesn't mean they don't go back to it. Now that I'm thinking about, I'd really love a hot toy of Michael B. Jordan as that Superman.
Oh, and by the way,
Warner
Warner
I love
Brothers,
that costume.
With a theoretical situation side with me directing, if you want to send me Henry Cavill's phone number, I would be more than willing to accept it and just give him a call anyway.
By the way, if they came out and they announced Henry Cavill was coming back and playing the electric Superman from the 90s in the blue and white, people they'd be pissed about that too.
Yeah, well, I'd be one of them.
Me too.
I didn't like that version.
I didn't either.
I just didn't like that incarnation of him.
Although I kind of like that costume, but I would not want an action figure of it.
All right, question is, guys, what do you make of all this? Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to our fourth main topic today. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Geeky Gator, who writes, "Hey, John and crew. Very soon after her flop with Charlie's Angels, Elizabeth Banks has been hired to direct and star in an Invisible Woman movie. Do you think the combination of gender bending the role and Banks makes for a bad movie idea for this dark universe trying to resurrect itself?" All right, thanks for sending that in. And yeah, for those of you who may not have heard, Elizabeth Banks has been signed on by Universal to direct and star in an Invisible Woman movie. Now, one of the things that's really going to be important to keep in mind here regarding this whole story is that this isn't a gender bend. Like, because some of you might be understandably saying right now, wait a minute, didn't we just get a trailer for The Invisible Man? They're already doing a gender... Well, actually, this isn't based on that. This is actually based on a 1940s movie, The Invisible Woman. That's what they're basing this on. Anyway, the story comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter that's talking about this. And Elizabeth Banks. I love her. Anyway... Erin Cressida Wilson has penned the script for this. She's writing the script for The Invisible Woman. My one big worry about that is that The Girl on the Train was not good.
No.
That movie had a lot of promise. And that movie was not good, so I don't know if that was script or if that was direction or whatever. But anyway, Elizabeth Banks will be given form to The Invisible Woman. Banks is developing an original take based on the classic Universal title and is attached to star and direct the feature project. She will also be producing along with her husband, Max Handelman, via the duo's Brownstone Productions. This is the key part. The 1940 original was centered on a department store model who becomes the test subject of an invisibility experiment. Upon becoming invisible, she gets back against her mean boss, but unwittingly falls into the caper involving gangsters. Now, it goes on to say that unlike the other original Invisible Man movies, which was kind of borderline horror movies, this was more of a kind of a comedy in that sense. And whether or not they decide to bring those sensibilities back into this, we'll have to wait and see whether they're going to go comedy or not. Rob, we're just getting out of seeing her doing Charlie's Angels, which was a big financial flop. But one thing I've said, I've always been concerned about Elizabeth Banks as a director because I haven't been thrilled with her as a director. And even though I was let down by Charlie's Angels, I thought I saw marked improvement in her directing. So I'm seeing her improving as a director. I'm seeing her getting better. But what do you think about the overall idea about them moving forward? They did just put out a trailer for Invisible Man, and now they're already talking, they're getting into production on Invisible Woman too soon. Wrong match, wrong idea for a movie. Great idea, hopping on. How do you see this?
Well, first of all, I like Elizabeth Banks. I think she's an up-and-coming talent, and why derail her career because a movie that I mean, it's not like somebody said that it's completely incompetently directed. I think the whole idea behind it was where it was flawed. I think Elizabeth Banks probably acquitted herself admirably and what she's directed before and her involvement with the Pitch Perfect series. This film, like The Invisible Man, I don't know if it's being done by Blumhouse or not, but they keep the budget down. She has a good idea for it. Elizabeth Banks is bankable as a star and as a filmmaker. And you could probably get something that has the potential to be a franchise picture. Obviously, Universal jumped at the idea. They like the script. They like the package that's put together. And it makes sense to me. I mean, there are very few people, what people don't get about the movie business is that there are very few people that studios trust to actually direct a studio picture. And what I mean by that is, I'm not talking about being an auteur like a Martin Scorsese, but somebody that can actually competently direct a studio movie with all the concerns that they have. There's not that many. You'd think there'd be a lot, but there really aren't. And Elizabeth Banks has become one of those people. She's beloved in the industry. Actors like her, executives like her. So I want to see her career continue, and hopefully she'll become the world-class filmmaker I think she can become. And I think she's smart. She's coming off of financial disappointment. She's going to go in and make a movie that's probably plays to her strengths. She has a much better idea. It's something she's shepherding probably. And I think it's not going to cost a lot. And I'll bet, look, that trailer for Invisible Man was dope. I loved it.
No, the trailer was wonderful.
I mean, coming off of Upgrade, Lee Whannell's last film, I'm really looking forward to that. And I think this movie could be quite good. The idea of a beautiful woman being invisible, the possibilities, John. I want to see that.
I'll tell you what. I have my apprehensions about this project. I do. My apprehension is not Elizabeth Banks as an actress. I'm a big fan of her as an actress. Yeah. I love seeing her in just about everything. I'm a much bigger fan of Elizabeth Banks as an actress than I am as a director so far. I think she's made progress. She's still not in my top, say, 50 working directors today at this point. Could she get there? She could. But I'm a much bigger fan of her as an actress, so I'm all for that. The directing thing I'm a little bit curious about. But here's the part for me, Rob, that makes it a little bit more concerning. And that part is simply this. Universal Studios is coming off of, and the wounds are still fresh, one of the most humiliating, embarrassing disasters of a Hollywood experiment in history with their Monsters universe that they were calling the Dark Universe, that they were putting out all these magazine spreads and photo ops and look at all these stars. These are all the movies we're doing, blah, 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 blah. And they got way ahead of themselves. The first movie came out. I didn't hate Mummy. I got a bit of a kick out of Mummy. It wasn't a great movie, but I got a bit of a kick. But just because I didn't mind it, it was received disastrously by a lot of critics. And it did not do the business of the box office that they were thinking it would. And all of a sudden, this grand experiment they had of this big Monsters universe all blew up in their face, and the wounds are still fresh. When I see this, my main concern, I'm not saying it can't work, but my main concern right now, Rob, is has Universal learned nothing about getting ahead of yourself? They just put out a trailer for Invisible Man. And it looks good. It looks real good, as a matter of fact. But perhaps, as you're still licking your wounds, maybe the right approach here is, you know what, we got this idea for this. Why don't we shelf that for now? Let's take this Invisible Woman idea. Let's put it on the shelf, well within our eyesight. We'll keep our eyes on it. But why don't we see how this movie does? We thought Mummy was going to do all this stuff, and it blew up on our face, and it humiliated us. Why would they do this now? So I'll tell you what, Rob, if I'm an executive in the boardrooms at Universal, and Universal thanks their lucky stars every day that I am not, because they would have gone out of business a long time ago. But if I were executive at Universal right now, I'm saying, guys, let's pump the brakes on this for now. It might be a great idea, so let's not throw it away. Let's come back and revisit it. But maybe this isn't the right time. Maybe. I mean, we just got humiliated doing this sort of thing. So, Rob, isn't there an element here that maybe a little bit of patience might be in order here? I don't know. How would you respond to that?
I don't know, man. I mean, Universal is doing pretty well with their Blumhouse model. You make movies for $20 million or less. You know, The Mummy was a big, expensive A-list star Hollywood project. You saw those pictures with Johnny Depp and Russell Crowe and all the people that were going to be in the dark universe. I mean, I'm sure they laid out a ton of money.
Javier Bardem.
They probably laid out more money to start the dark universe than the entire budget of both Invisible Man and this upcoming Invisible Woman put together. So I would imagine that what they've seen Invisible Man. They know they're probably very, very happy with it. You've got a world-class actress in Elizabeth Moss. I mean, she's not an A-list theatrical draw yet, but her television credibility is through the roof.
And the trophies on her mantle are growing.
And yes, and I really enjoy her as a presence, and I think that clearly she looks like she's doing A-list work in The Invisible Man, at least based on the trailer. I think Universal knows something. They're pretty confident, and they probably are confident in the story. And if it goes and fits their model, they're going to get a movie that doesn't cost a whole lot, that has a lot of profit potential. And I think that's why they're doing it. Because I think because they've been burned, they've pulled back, and I think it's really interesting. I mean, I'd love to see Bill Condon's Bride of Frankenstein. I know that was a passion project. That was the first casualty of the end of the dark universe. And I'm hoping that Lee Whannell's Invisible Man make them on a budget, which is what I thought they should have done in the first place. You know, the Universal monster stories are not big apocalyptic world-ending stories.
Right.
The classic monster stories were full of pathos and humanity, and they were real. They were almost like dramas, you know, with a lot of horror elements. And when I saw, I'm like, wow, you're making a movie like a Julia Roberts thriller from the early 90s where she's being stalked by her ex. That's what this Invisible Man movie looks like, except the stalker's invisible. And I'm like, oh, I'm in. I mean, I'll watch that. And I think if they concentrate on that, they could really have something. And if you make movies for $20 million, theatrically release them like what they did with Shyamalan and what Blumhouse did with like Halloween, and you end up making $200 million, that's pretty good.
It's a great day for everybody. All right, guys, question is, what do you think about this? Rob points out a lot of potential upside. I've mentioned a couple things that make me a little bit nervous about it. Question is, how do you guys see it? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to our fifth and final main topic today. And our fifth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Mike, who simply writes, "Hello, John. Hello, Mike. So the Flash drama continues." Yes, it does. As reports are coming out saying that the Flash movie won't start filming until 2021 due to Ezra Miller's commitments to Fantastic Beasts 3. Do you buy this at all, considering this movie has been in development hell for years? If not, what are your thoughts? Thanks. All right. Thanks a lot for sending in that question, man. And listen, we have already done a couple stories based on that one article in Variety. Talking the Michael Jordan thing, Michael B. Jordan. Also within that same article, talking about the future of DC, was a piece on Flash. A very interesting piece on Flash. And this is what Variety said. They said Warner Brothers and DC also still have faith. Really? They still have faith in Ezra Miller's smartass interpretation of the Flash and are proceeding with development on a standalone film based on the character. DC has tapped IT director Andy Muschietti, who we already know, we talked about this a while ago, to oversee the movie, and has enlisted Christina Hodson, Bumblebee, to write the screenplay, which Bumblebee was fantastic. Hodson will finish that assignment before moving on to write a screenplay for Batgirl. Production on The Flash won't be able to start until Miller finishes up work on the next Fantastic Beasts, which will mean that cameras are unlikely to roll at least until 2021, which means at the minimum we're looking at a 2022 or 2023 release. Remember, this movie was already supposed to be in theaters. Keep that in mind. Rob, this is a drama that's been going on for a while now, and there was even all that ridiculous drama, the worst thing and the stupidest thing to happen at DC ever since Walter Hamada took over, was that whole thing where they actually capitulated a little bit to Ezra Miller's demands. Let me write a script for Flash. Meanwhile, the directors who also wrote the script were like, excuse me? And Warner Brothers stupidly said, yeah, go ahead, Ezra, write a version of that. So the directors left. They say, well, bye-bye. If you're going to throw us under the bus like that, so long, which is too bad because they were actually shaping up to be pretty good. So they took off. And I listen, I'm on record. It's an unpopular opinion, and that's fine. I really like Ezra Miller's Flash. I really like his Flash.
Me too.
I enjoyed his Flash was one of my favorite things about Justice League. Absolutely. I loved his iteration of it. I think it's a very, very different iteration than Grant Gustin's Flash that we see on television, but that's good. It should be a different iteration. But I really enjoyed seeing him on screen. I'm still doubting. Now, I have no insider information saying he's gone right now. I'm just saying I still doubt we're going to see this. Maybe a Flash movie happens. I'm doubting, though, that Ezra Miller's actually going to be the guy to play it. And we have seen Warner Brothers many times when an actor has departed a role, they don't let that information out for sometimes years. I still doubt. Now, he very well could be attached. I'm not saying it's impossible. Ezra Miller could still very well be attached, and he could still very well actually be Flash. And if he is, count me as a happy camper, because I want to see him as Flash again. But I still have my doubts that it'll actually happen. Rob, at this point, we are now already past when this movie was supposed to be in theaters, let alone they're still talking about it. Number one, do you think it's a good idea for them to continue moving forward with the Flash movie? Number two, do you actually think we're going to see Ezra Miller actually play the role given this new information? How do you see it?
Well, first of all, they put a pretty good team together. You know, Warner Brothers likes to cultivate, and they always have, relationships with filmmakers. And while I think that It Chapter 2 might not have been as successful as they wanted worldwide, it still did pretty well, coming off of the huge success of It Chapter 1. So they have a filmmaker the studio knows and trusts, likes. They've got a screenwriter that's dealt with fantasy characters before, revitalized the franchise, the Transformers franchise with Bumblebee. Brought a lot of what I would say was humanity to that movie. And I think the two of them together are a pretty strong, formidable unit. And having Ezra Miller back, like you, I love the character. I think a lot of people did. I think Warner Brothers sees the upside, especially coming on the heels of Shazam and Aquaman. They see what a Flash movie could be. So I think that they very well could make this movie finally. I'd like to see it.
I'm not going to lie. I'd like to see it too. I mean, just because I like his iteration.
I do
just
too.
Still really have my doubts.
You know there's a hot toy of him now. You can buy it.
No, really?
There's a Flash hot toy from Justice League that is out.
I would like that.
It's a great figure.
I would like that because I don't think we're ever going to see him again in the role. But who knows? Very well could. So let's just kind of wait and see. All right, guys. Question is here. What do you think is going to happen here? You're still really? They're still trying to move forward with this thing? Do you think, number one, the movie's actually going to happen? Because these are two separate questions. Do you think the movie's actually going to happen? But number two, do you think Ezra Miller will actually be the guy playing Flash by the time they get around to doing it? I want to know what you guys think. Jump down to the comments section below and leave us your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that down and out of the way, we're now going to move on to the live questions part of the show. And by the way, if you want to participate in the live questions part of the show, just go ahead, use that link that's in the top line of the video description to the tip link. Go ahead and use that. Or you can use the super chat feature, whichever suits your fancy a little bit better. And we will get to those questions in just a few minutes. But before we get to those questions, as we do every day, Rob and I are going to take a little bit of a break here, rest the vocal cords, stretch our legs, refill our drinks. So if you guys will indulge us and hang tight for just a couple of minutes, Robert Meyer, Burnett, and I will be right back. Don't go anywhere. right, and we are back. Thank you guys for your patience and indulgence as we took a little bit of a break there. We're not going to dive into the live questions you guys sent in. We're going to start things off here with Willow, who writes, I'm actually optimistic about Godzilla vs. Kong being pushed back. It indicates to me that they are at least still investing in the film and not just trying to cut their losses after King of the Monsters underperformed. Listen, I say this all the time, Willow. It can be a very bad sign when they had to push it back. And I think this is because of bad reasons. But it is good that if you think there's a big problem with the movie, I would rather the studio push it back and work on it to try to make the problems go away to try to fix them. Rob, how do you see that?
I'm right there with Willow. And I think that I have a lot of hope for this movie too, because I think the potential, the upside is there.
This could be a huge blockbuster.
I mean, I loved Godzilla King of the Monsters, and especially when you watch this new show set that Criterion put out of the first 15 Godzilla movies, it's totally a love letter to those films. I mean, I don't know what people were expecting, but I can't wait for Godzilla versus King Kong.
All right, next up here, we got Steven D. Warders, who writes, hi, John. Greetings from Belgium. Well, thank you so much, Stefan. Love the show. Been watching since the AMC days. Thank you so much for taking time the other day for answering my question about Inside Out and acknowledging how powerful it is. It meant a lot to me. Love you, man. Well, thanks so much. And yeah, I remember Stefan wrote in the other day about Inside Out. And quite often, it's a testament to how good Pixar films are. Because there's so many unbelievably brilliant Pixar films that there are some unbelievably brilliant films that just get overlooked a lot, and I think Inside Out is one of them. It is absolutely a powerful, powerful movie that I love and adore, and I'm glad you like it too, Stefan, and so believe me, it was my pleasure to answer this, so thanks for sending in the question, man. All right, Canada Rocks writes, oops, forgot to add a name to my question yesterday about tipping for a specific show of yours. I have a suggestion, if it is feasible. Would you be able to set up separate accounts for each show? So here's the problem. This is what Ken Rocks is bringing up. So you can use the tipping feature below to send in a question 24/7. So you don't have to wait for there to be a show on. You can go and use that link that's at the top line of the description of the video anytime, and we will get around to that question on our next show. I realize there's a little bit of a problem with that system. Like we did Dark Side, Light Side yesterday with me and Kyle Newman. And I realized, oh yeah, it all comes in the same stream. So there's no way to differentiate. Now, it actually wasn't a problem for us. It was very easy for us to tell which questions were Star Wars specific and which one was for the general show. But I'm still working on trying to find a solution for that, dude. I'm still working on trying to find, and we will. But honestly, it didn't seem to be a problem for us yesterday. So that's a good thing at any rate. All right. Angela Dashner writes and sends in a $50 chat. And listen, so Angela, thank you for that. And for those of you who don't know, when you send in a chat at $50 or higher, and I don't expect people to do this very often, your question is actually going to get answered in its own video. So we've got 3 or 4 of these that are going to go up a little bit later today from you guys sending them in. But let me just touch on this quickly. Angela writes, thanks for all you and Rob do. I have been with you since AMC. Thank you so much for that. You always make me smile. What is your number one fantasy film? For me, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is my favorite because Jackson captured the book so well and made something I love come to life on screen. And Angela, like I said, I will go more in depth into your own standalone video that I'm going to make to answer this question a little bit later. But I'll say off the top, just to give you a little bit of a teaser of what's coming, it kind of depends on how you define fantasy, which is sometimes a question. But for me, it is, if we're talking pure fantasy, I got to go Lord of the Rings as well. Rob, do you just have a favorite off the top of your head?
But well, yes, but I think you're absolutely right about that. I think for what people think of as fantasy movies, it's Lord of the Rings. You know, I love those movies so much. But my favorite, what I would call fantasy movie of all time, is a German film directed by Wim Wenders called Wings of Desire that was remade in America with Nicolas Cage and Meg Ryan as City of Angels. But Wings of Desire is my favorite fantasy movie of all time.
Is it better than City of Angels?
It's yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to get that clear.
It's look, a lot of people will think it's boring as all get out, but I love the film. It's about angels.
All right. Sam O writes, hey, John, I was wondering if you have watched The Irishman yet, and if so, will you do a review of it? I have not watched it yet, but I will do a review of it. As soon as I'm done watching it, I'll do a quick 1-minute thought on it, and then we'll review it a little bit more in depth, probably once we all get back from the Thanksgiving Day weekend. By the way, guys, just as a quick note, there is going to be a John Campea Show tomorrow. I know it's Thanksgiving, but for Thanksgiving for me was in October, being Canadian. But So I am still going to do a show tomorrow. There's still going to be a John Campea show tomorrow. So for you guys who are going to be home off work and you're kicking around in the morning, there is going to be a John Campea show here for us to talk about movies, just so you guys know. All right, let's move on here. Duke Silver writes, top 10 in the past 10 years. Number 10, The Way Back. I do like that movie. Number 9, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Not my favorite movie. Number 8, Baby Driver. Love that movie. Number 7, Popstar Never Stop. That is an underrated comedy. Nobody went to, this movie flopped hard, and it deserved better, because that's a funny movie. Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping. Anyway, number 6, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Love it. Number 5, Prisoners. Love it. Number 4, Toy Story 3. Number 3, Parasite. Number 2, Captain America, The First Avenger. And number 1, Her. That's a special little movie. I'm finding more and more TV shows, Rob, actually talk about that movie.
I'm a huge proponent of the movie Her. You know, 2 science fiction movies that I don't think get enough love is Her and another movie called Never Let Me Go.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I love those 2 films. They're a little depressing, but I love them both.
I was watching Ballers about a month ago, and there's an entire episode of Ballers where all the guys are just hanging around and they're just talking about her. They just keep talking about the movie Her. So it's getting more and more relevant in the pop culture as well. Darth Hideous, I love that name, writes, top 10 sitcoms. Here we go. Number 10, Arrested Development. I gotta admit, I've never been the biggest Arrested Development fan. I don't hate the show. I'm just never the biggest fan of it like a lot of people are. Number 9, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Never watched it. Number 8, The Cosby Show. Hate to admit it, but it's true. Hey, look, I get it. You're right. It's very difficult to talk about Bill Cosby these days. But I'm not going to rewrite history. The Cosby Show was something I loved, especially as a kid. I used to watch that thing all the time. I loved that show. And it is very awkward to talk about that today because of the Cosby situation, but I'm not going to rewrite history. It's true. That was incredible. Anyway. Number 7, MASH. Number 6, Parks and Rec. It's probably my top 3. Number 5, Golden Girls. Number 4, 30 Rock. I know a lot of people that love that show. Number 3, The Office. Number 2, Seinfeld. And number 1, Cheers. That is one of the great classics, was Cheers. I mean, more in the Shelley Long days than the post-Shelley Long days. But, I mean, for me, the top 3 are in no particular order right now, okay? So don't hold me in any order. But for me, the top 3 are Seinfeld, The Office, and Parks and Rec. That's my top 3 all-time favorite. Do you got a top 1 or 2 favorite all-time sitcoms?
You got to put the Honeymooners in there, man. I love the Honeymooners. Of course, it's a little politically incorrect when you say to your wife, to the moon, Alice.
Yeah, one more thing, Allison. Pow, right to the moon. Really. Yeah. It's a show where every week the habit is for him to physically threaten his wife with violence.
But I love it. I love the Honeymooners. I don't love the violence, but I love the Honeymooners. And I love Lucy.
Oh,
you got to put I Love Lucy up there, though. I mean, I know it's old school.
Okay, look, but I Love Lucy may be old school, but every once in a while, I had this girlfriend of mine, not girlfriend, girlfriend of mine. She was actually one of my best. I was actually, she got married, and I actually got to be, I was not her maid of honor, but the guy she married was very gracious and allowed me to be the best man in the wedding. Anyway, her name was Diane, and she loved I Love Lucy. And I remember every once in a while, we'd hang out at her place, and she would pop it on, and it may be old school, man, but I'm telling you what, that show holds up. There's a lot of comedy from different eras that the things they do in comedy that would have made people laugh. I watch I Love Lucy now, and granted, I don't watch it all the time, but when I pop on an I Love Lucy episode, dude, I laugh myself hysterically still. It totally holds up. Okay, anyway. Let's see. Brandon Blake writes, how are you keeping track of what comments go with which show on Streamlabs? Also, Mando totally shot Apollo there because of the Beskar was in his pocket. I don't want to go into that just in case it's kind of a spoiler, although the show was out over a week ago. So I disagree with that, by the way. I think because he was shooting through smoke and mist, and I think that was just narrative coincidence. I think that was narrative coincidence. Rob, do you think he shot him there on purpose because he knew it was there, or do you think that was narrative coincidence?
I'd go with you on that. You know? Narrative coincidence.
I think it's narrative coincidence. All right. Next up, Timbula the Spider Monkey writes, my favorite character is King Theoden. Oh, dude, it's hard not to. I've been gushing about King Theoden lately. My top 3 moments featuring him, 3, and Rohan shall answer. Dude, that's number 1. Number 2, Gambling, we cannot defeat the armies of Mordor, Theoden. No, we cannot, but we will meet them in battle nonetheless. Oh, dude, you can't see it. The hair on my arm is standing up and chills. No, we cannot, but we will meet them in battle nonetheless. And then, of course, his speech, death on the field. I mean, Theoden might be the most badass character in the history of cinema.
Yeah. What about the now for wrath? What is it now for ruin?
That was the speech.
And
that was
a red
speech
dawn.
On the fields, yep.
And a red. I mean, that's right.
That's now.
And how has it? Also, when he's depressed, he's like, and how has it come to this? You know. Yeah.
But just that moment. Gondor calls for aid. That with the beard, and Rohan shall answer. Fuck! It's like, ugh! So I know I freak out every time we talk about. I can't help it. That is like one of the greatest, most manly scenes. Oh God, I get excited when I think about that scene. Anyway, okay, let's keep things going here. Austin writes. 1 of 2, top 10 of 2019, number 10, Us. I liked Us, but I still thought it was a pretty big step down from Get Out.
I was so disappointed by Us. Oh,
yeah, I mean, first of all, just the performance of Lupita Nyong'o is enough to make me like the movie
amazing.
all on its own.
No, it was amazing, but at the end of it, when all is revealed,
made no sense.
I'm like, come on.
Anyway,
really?
Number 9, Curse of La Llorona. Number 8, Godzilla. There you go, Rob.
Thank you.
Number 7, Dr. Sleep. I love Dr. Sleep. Number 6, Annabelle 3. Number 5, Yesterday. Number 4, Midway. Number 3, Endgame. Number 2, Dora and the Lost City of Gold. And who would have thought you'd see in the top 2 spots side by side? Dora and the Lost City of Gold and number 1 Joker.
Wait, read the next sentence.
Fun fact, I saw Dora 9 times in theaters. Yes, 9 times. I get so much crap for that. As a 23-year-old male, I have been made fun of almost weekly since August 9th for enjoying Dora as much as I did. But hey, I enjoyed the movie. Sue me. Yes, I am also remembered the release. Yes, I also remember the release date. Listen, to be fair to Austin, look, I thought the trailers were terrible. I thought this was a movie that's way past its due date, and I had no interest in watching it, and I didn't go to see it. I didn't watch it. But to be fair to Austin, the reviews weren't all that bad.
No.
And I actually heard from a number of people, again, in Austin's defense, who saw Dora the Explorer and were like, you know what? It's actually pretty good. So just another example that maybe sometimes the trailers to a movie can be absolutely terrible and the movie can turn out to be great. That's why I always say the trailers and the movie are two different things. So did you ever get around to watching Dora?
I never even watched Dora the Explorer, the animated show.
Well, no, I mean, I didn't either.
I've never seen a frame of Dora the Explorer other than in ads for toys or promos or whatever. I am too old and with one foot in the grave to have experienced Dora.
I remember I used to watch my buddies' kids, and they would watch Dora the Explorer. And I remember there was this fox, and his name was Swiper. I think it was Swiper. And the fox was a criminal. He was a little fox, and he had a criminal mask on, right? And Dora the Explorer would be going through her thing, and then Swiper would pop up, and he would start creeping towards something that he was going to steal. And Dora would go, oh no, everybody, Swiper's going to steal the, I don't know, golden egg or whatever. Quick, say Swiper no swiping with me 3 times. And all the kids would go, Swiper no swiping, Swiper no swiping. And then the fox would go, aw, and turn around and walk away. And I thought, this is a dangerous lesson for kids. Like if you're walking down a dark alley and you're about to get mugged, you run. You don't stand there and go, mugger no mugging. Mugger, no. I thought it was a dangerous lesson for kids. Shame on the people who made Dora the Explorer for that. I don't know. That's the only thing that ever stuck with me from the one episode of Dora the Explorer that I saw. All right, let's see here. Anonymous writes, I need a shirt that says, fuck you, kid, go to bed. So where that comes from was I put up a video the other day talking about COPPA, the Child's Online Privacy Protection Act, and how it may affect the John Campea YouTube channel and how I'm concerned about it. I haven't come to any conclusions yet, but I am concerned about it. And it's even made me contemplate. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just saying, I always explore my options, contemplate moving my show off of YouTube. And just at some point in the middle of it, I say, because clearly my show is not for kids. My show is not designed and targeted at children under 13 years of age. And I said, And if you are somebody who's watching this video and you're under 13 years of age, fuck you, kid, go to bed. That's kind of what I said. So maybe I should, Anonymous, maybe I should make a t-shirt that says that. Thanks for the suggestion.
I'd buy one.
You'd buy, fuck off, kid, go to bed. Murray Reich writes, took my mom to see A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood for her birthday, and I still need to see that. And we loved it. Tom Hanks' performance of Fred Rogers was spot on, great. The mixture of the nostalgia music to it made it so special. As soon as the movie ended, I was bawling in tears, 9 out of 10. And listen, I am beside myself. I still can't believe I haven't seen it because I've been dying for this movie. Tom Hanks is Ant's favorite person in the world, but that's just been our schedule. We haven't had a chance to go see it. And if we don't get a chance to go out to see it later tonight, I don't know that we're going to see it until at least next week.
Right.
Because tomorrow, after we're done the John Campea Show, me, Ann, and her mom, and Ray, and Ann's sister, and my brother-in-law, we're all hopping in the cars. We're driving to Vegas for the weekend. For Thanksgiving Day weekend. What a Vegas thing what an American thing to do. So that we're going to go out there for that, and so we don't come back till Sunday. So I really hope I get a chance to see it tonight, because I know you haven't had a chance to see it yet either, have you?
No, and I love Mr. Rogers. I grew up with Mr. Rogers. I love the land of make-believe, and I wanted to wear sweaters when I was a kid because of Mr. Rogers.
Oh God. And did you saw the documentary?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I have never been moved the way that documentary moved me. So I cannot wait to see this movie. Anyway, Murray also writes, all the New York City theaters I've gone to, where are we at? There it is. Of all the New York City theaters I've gone to, ads before the previews and previews always start on time. But when I saw Mr. Rogers, the movie there was 10 minutes of ads and then 18 minutes of trailers. I paid money to watch the damn movie. Why the F would you do that? Listen, this is a common theme and refrain on the John Campea Show lately. And this is apparently our crusade of the day. But honestly, I am outraged. It really bothers me. People's time is precious. Guess what? We're all mortal. We only got so much. This may sound silly, but honestly, we got so much time on this earth. And you tell me that a movie starts at 7, don't start the damn movie at 7:30. And I am really getting behind the idea that I think it should be a law that movie theaters advertise what time the actual movie starts. Because I had somebody write in the other day, Rob, saying, I figured 25 minutes of trailers, so I showed up, movie's supposed to start 7:30, I showed up at 7:50, still thinking I still had some trailer time, and I missed the first 8 minutes of the movie. Because they happened to run shorter trailers that day, and they missed parts of the movie. And I think they do that on purpose, to try to make sure and keep us guessing, to make sure we put our asses in seats that we paid to sit in. There needs to be a law. Look, you want to advertise 2 showtimes? Fine. Showtime starts at 7. Movie begins 7:28. You do that, then we're cool. Do that, we're cool. Then you give everybody the option. Hey, if you love the trailers, you want to watch all the trailers, great. Be in your seat by 7. You don't care about the trailers and commercials. You paid your money not to go watch trailers. You paid your money to go see a movie. 7:28 is when I need to be in my seat by. That's what they should do. That is what they absolutely should do. So I defy and challenge any movie theater chain reps. I don't care if you work with Cinemark, Landmark, Regal, AMC. I don't care. Any of you that work for any movie theater, I challenge you to write me. You can email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Email me and tell me, justify to me why you can't do that. Give me a good reason why you can't do that. Advertise your showtime and then advertise the actual start time of the movie so people know when the movie that they paid for should be in their seat by. I don't know. Wouldn't that work?
Look, I don't like the commercials. I love trailers, but even whenever I buy a Blu-ray from Lionsgate, they always put like 4 or 5 trailers before the movie on my physical media, and I think that's too much. Give me 3 trailers. The ArcLight does it right here. We have our premium theaters, the ArcLight. Yes, they do 3. It's 3. Sometimes on a big release, they'll give you a 4th trailer, but it's 3 trailers. And what's great about that is you're ready for the movie. It's like 3 trailers feels like it's 6 minutes, maybe 7 together, and then you get a little bit of a taste. You're excited. You're just excited about movies after 3 trailers, and then the movie starts. And that's all they give you. And it's great, and I love it.
All right, let's move on here. Next one comes to us from Murray Riker writes, is Anne going to create a Baby Yoda Instagram page, sort of like Porgstagram? So for those of you who don't know, my wife Anne, oh my God, she loves porgs. Loves them. And so she bought a number of porgs, and she created an Instagram account that was kind of popular for a little while called Porgstagram, where she would take porgs all around Los Angeles and have the porgs pose and poke pictures around different locales around Los Angeles. The one thing stopping her from doing a Baby Yoda Instagram is the fact that there aren't Baby Yoda toys right now.
Right.
That's kind of getting in the way a little bit. But I could tell you what, Maria, if she wasn't thinking about it, you probably just planted it in her head, and she probably will now. All right, Jared's Reviews writes, hey, John, just saw Honey Boy, and what a beautiful movie. It felt like a love letter almost to his dad. I thought Willem Dafoe was a lock for supporting actor, but now Shia just made it a tight race. I thought he deserved a nom for Fury, but now he might win. Listen, I actually agree. I thought Shia LaBeouf deserved a nomination. Not flat out win, but I thought Shia LaBeouf deserved a nomination for Fury as well. He upstaged John Bernthal, Brad Pitt. He upstaged everybody in that movie, which is no small feat. And he was great. The two movies I've said that I really got to see, well, now you can add, now that it's in theaters, you can add the Mr. Rogers movie. But before that, the only two movies I really got on my list that I need to still see this year are Honey Boy and Peanut Butter Falcon. And I guess now that Irishman is out, we can add Irishman to that list. But I'll probably knock that out sometime today or tomorrow or something. Maybe on the drive to Vegas. I'll pop it on as Anne's driving or Ryan's driving or something. But yeah, Honey Boy's this is a movie everybody keeps raving about, and we got to get on that. Okay, Anonymous writes, greetings from Vietnam. Oh, thanks I think this is the first time I've gotten one from Vietnam. Thank you for writing that in, man.
Can I say, good morning, Vietnam? Can I say that?
Actually, yeah, why not? That works. John. That's right. You have fans from Asia too. Been watching since 2013. Is there a way to send more than 255 words? Also, I saw some people send in $2 the other day. How is that possible? Minimum tipping amount is $5. Well, listen, yeah. So the minimum thing on if you use the tipping page link is $5. Reason for that is because on the Super Chats, there's no way to set a minimum on Super Chats. So there's two different ways: Super Chat and the tipping link. If I could on Super Chat change it to $5, I would. If for no other reason than to limit a little bit more the number of questions that come in, because I do try, when you send in a question, I want to try to answer it. You guys have noticed that I've been trying more and more, and I've been doing a little bit of a better job trying to get all the questions answered on the show. Now, when I absolutely can't, I take up the unused questions and we answer them in companion videos. But I have been trying very hard to try to get through all the questions that get sent in. So that now, a way to send in more than 255 words, yes. And the way to do that, it doesn't guarantee your question will get on the show, but the way to do that is by going over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact and submit your topic or question there, and to see if maybe your topic or question will be used as one of the main topics on the show. And that's totally free. You don't need to donate anything. I've always had it that way, that the main part of our show, you don't need to spend any money to send in a question, because you can send it there anytime, and maybe it'll be one of the main topics of the show. But then when we get into the live chat questions there, but no, 255 characters is the absolute maximum of that, because I would also fret that people would try to write novels, and we just don't have time for that. But anyway, thank you from Vietnam. I really appreciate that.
That's pretty cool.
That's really cool. All right. Busky writes, main problem with the multiple Oscar category. Who gets to vote for the final winner after each category has been adjudicated? Only the people in the theater, all members of the Academy by SMS, everyone watching like American Idol. So what Busky is talking about here is the other day I proposed, I didn't propose, and one of the viewers proposed, but I like the idea. It has problems that would need to be worked out, but in general, I like the idea where you do it like a Mr. Olympia or like a bodybuilding competition. Each weight division has its own competition, and then a winner is declared for each weight division. Then at the end of the show, all the winners of the different division come out for one final pose off, and a grand champion is then announced and that could be anybody from any of the weight divisions. The idea was basically have a category for best horror film, like break it out by genre. Horror film, comedy, drama, thriller, whatever. And then you can honor more films at the Academy Awards. then you have a winner for best horror, winner for best comedy, winner for best drama, winner for... Now, at the end of the night then, you say, and now the nominees for best picture overall are, and then you list all the winners from the various genres and declare one film best picture of the year overall. What you would have to do with that is that the Academy voters themselves would need to be made aware in advance who the winners are of each category, and then the Academy voters would then vote on the overall champion. So going into Oscar night, that would mean that the Academy Award voters would know. It creates a security problem, because what's to stop an Academy Award voter from leaking the winners online in advance? So there's problems with it. There's absolutely problems with it. There are problems you have to come around with. But I still kind of dig the idea if they can figure out a way to fix the problems. So I don't know, Rob. How do you see that?
Well, I mean, all of those questions are valid, but if they want to just open it up to me, just open it up to the voting constituency of the Academy. I mean, we've got the different departments. They vote, like the editors vote for other editors. But when it comes to these multiple categories, just open them up to the whole voting Academy.
Well, usually for Best Picture they do.
Right, but that's what I mean. If we're going to have the
right,
like when we were talking,
thought about how you could get around it. Use modern technology. So the Academy voters do not know who won each individual category, but once the final winner of the final category is announced, at that point, the 7,000 members of the Academy can log into their Academy account, because that's private, and they've got 30 minutes or maybe 15 minutes between when the final category winner is announced, and now the Academy's got 15 minutes, the Academy members, so they can be there that night and say, okay, out of the 6 winners in the different categories, I select Eat My Poop comedy winner to be best overall picture. And they hit that, and then it's that way, no security problem. There, I just solved your Academy. You're welcome. I just solved the problem. All right. But there are many more problems that still need to be solved with that idea for it to work, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Mr. TJ Lynn writes, Robert Meyer Burnett knows someone who smells. I know a friend who had bad breath. Never say anything to him. One day he wondered why people try to avoid him. I said, it's your choice to let your breath be bad. It's also another person's choice to avoid you because of it. He changed since. That's an awkward conversation to have.
It's tough.
It's kind of like when your wife asks, do I look fat in this? There's no good answer. There's no good answer. Well, there is one good answer. Don't answer. Whenever my wife asks, it's true. I remember there's a series of questions, and I put this into a comic strip once. There are a number of questions your wife could ask you where you should instantly have Admiral Akbar in your head screaming, it's a trap! Questions like, does this dress make me look fat? It's a trap! If you could, which one of my friends would you have sex with? It's a trap!
Never answer that question.
Never answer these questions, ladies and gentlemen. And
How many people did you sleep with before me?
And these are all questions Anne has asked me. And I'm like, nope. Not answering.
It's funny, like with questions like bad breath, halitosis, or whatever, there are life hacks. Like one of the things I learned early on was brush the back of your tongue. Once you do a good job brushing your teeth, if you brush the back of your tongue, it gets rid of a lot of morning breath, or it's just a thing I learned early on. But a lot of people, sometimes they just don't get those easy life hacks, so they don't know.
But you know what else? This is what I found out too, is that a good portion of bad breath actually comes from your stomach.
Right, I know.
And there are certain specialized mints you can take that actually deal with the problem there too. So whatever. Here we are. Breath talk. All right. Next thing up here. Superman Steve writes, do you think Frozen 2 is going to cross Frozen? Ooh, I don't know.
That's a tough one.
It's off to a better start than Frozen 1 is, but we are living in a culture where every year all movies become more and more front-end box office loaded. There are some exceptions, but those are exceptions.
It depends, I think, how many times the young members of the audience drag their parents back. I think it's going to be all about repeat viewings, at least theatrically.
Yeah, I agree. So I don't know. I'm not willing to call it at this point, Superman Steve. I'm just not willing to call it. It's off to a good start,
Are you saying you're not willing to let it go yet?
Sorry,
I can't resist.
Lone Wolf X6 writes, News Flash episode. Oh, New Flash episode. I thought it was News Flash. New Flash episode. Grant and Bloodwork acting 10 out of 10. I haven't seen the newest episode.
I haven't either.
So I cannot, but I keep my eye open for that. Lone Wolf X6 also right. Arrow was strong, didn't focus on Oliver's dumb kids. Good to know. I haven't seen the new episode yet, but that is good to know because I hate Oliver's stupid kids. That's a t-shirt I need. Get rid of Oliver's stupid kids. Andres Martinez writes, thoughts on Ben Affleck's Gone Baby Gone? Well, we've talked about that movie many times on the show, dude. I love it.
Me too.
It's a fabulous movie, and I thought it was great. So
I like Gone Baby Gone and The Town.
Oh, no. Look,
both of those movies
Gone
are...
Baby Gone, The Town, Argo. I mean, the dude is... He's amazing in director. He's an absolutely
just
amazing
a
director.
smart guy.
Yeah, I just love that stuff. Okay, Alyssa Rodriguez writes, went to a wedding this weekend where the bride and best man did the Pulp Fiction twist dance. It was very entertaining. It kind of became a big thing for a while about brides and grooms doing... Whether it was that one thing that the thing Pam and Jim did, where everybody comes dancing down the aisle,
right,
on The Office, and everybody started doing that. I'll be honest with you, some people find that stuff cheesy. I think it's awesome.
It is awesome.
I think it's totally awesome.
I mean, if you're not having fun, having a good time, I mean, I don't think you can out-cheese anyone at a wedding. It's important.
Because it also makes it memorable. But it's as long as it's something that's important to you and your spouse. That's the important thing. All right. War Machine Rocks writes, saw the new A24 film Waves. I had an invitation to see that, and I did not. And it was entertaining, emotional. The cinematography was amazing. Highly recommend.
I keep hearing great things about it.
The trailers have been great. The trailers are strong. I love the cast. So I got to get around to seeing that. So I wasn't available when I was initially invited to an advanced screening of it, but I do want to get around to seeing it because I love the cast. The trailers look strong. I do want to see it. Thanks for the recommendation, War Machine. Chris Shorbis writes, hey, John. Hope you're having a great day. I am so far, Chris. Thanks for asking. I've been watching you since you covered the Fox/Disney merger. I watched your channel form and evolve, and it's a great accomplishment for sure. Thanks to everyone. Rob, Aaron, Chris, Jonathan, and Ray. Good job. Thank you so much for that. And by the way, Chris... I'm going to point out right now, I believe, I don't know this 100% for sure. Let me bring it up and double check. I do believe today, sometime later today, if I'm not mistaken, right now, the John Campea YouTube channel stands at 199,888 subscribers.
Woo!
I believe sometime today... we will cross the 200,000 subscriber mark.
Are you going to throw a party?
Yes. As a matter of fact, we are going to throw a party because also within the next month, we are going to cross, and this is a bigger number, a more important number, the channel is going to cross 100 million views. So within a month, we are going to cross both 200,000 subscribers, which is still, listen, let's be clear here. In YouTube terms, compared to a lot of YouTube channels, 200,000 subscribers is a very, very tiny, insignificant number compared to a lot of channels.
It's pretty good, though. Come on, dude.
Hey, look, no.
I love that for my channel.
I know. I'm very grateful for it. I am. I'm super grateful for it. It's awesome, and I'm very proud of the number. But I'm just saying, let's keep in mind, I am still a fucking nobody from Canada. 200,000 is still very tiny compared to a lot of YouTube channels. That being said, I'm still very proud of it. But we're also crossing the 100 million view mark. Now, we threw a party... When I was at AMC Theater still, we threw a party when we hit the 100 million view mark. And I'm hitting the 100 million view mark faster than I did when I was running the AMC YouTube channel. So yes, in mid-December, I thought I would wait till January. I'm letting you guys know this now. In mid-December, so about 3 or 4 weeks from now, for those of you in the LA area, we are going to be having a little evening where we're going to get together and celebrate the 100 million views and 200,000 subscribers. So for those of you who are in, I'll put tickets on. It'll be like minimal, like $5 to come or something, just to help me cover the expense of renting a place. But I'm probably going to rent a little theater. And we'll do like probably an evening with John Campea or something like that, where we'll have a little theater. I'll get on stage. We'll tell some stories about where we're at. We'll take questions from the audience, and then we'll just have in the lobby, we'll have a hangout, and we'll take pictures together and stuff like that. So if any of you guys are going to be in the LA area or around or want to come down, keep your eyes open. I will announce probably within the next week the details of where and when the 100 million view party will be, but we're going to celebrate this stuff. So thank you so much, Chris, for bringing that up and for being along for the ride. And I'm really excited that we're that we're about to cross those lines. So thank you so much. Okay. Let's see here. Where are we at? That was Chris. So next one up is Jose Miaz, who writes, what's your top 10 TV shows of the decade? I don't do top 10 questions, just so you know. That's something that would take like research for me to do and time for me to lay it out. But I have already mentioned earlier in the show that in no particular order, my three favorite all-time are Parks and Rec, The Office, and Seinfeld. Top 10 TV shows of the decade. I don't know. I generally don't answer what are your top 5 or what are your top, because that takes time and I don't have time to sit down and work out a list right now, unfortunately. All right. Kevin K98 writes, greetings from AU. Do you think Warner Brothers cast Michael B. Jordan as Superman in Another Earth versus Black Adam because maybe Black Adam's could be excommunicated by the wizard in Shazam and he tried to get back to the original Earth? I think it's a cool idea. No, I do not think that's what they're doing at all. I don't think that's what they're doing at all. Now, is that something that theoretically is something they could do? Sure. But I'll be honest with you, Kevin 98. That sounds more like something that Warner Brothers could tackle in some straight-to-video animated movie. That sounds really more like a straight-to-home video animated kind of an idea that they could do and make it work in that thing. But I don't think that's something that would work, and I don't think it's something a lot of people would buy into, and I don't think it's something that they're looking at doing. But on that other format, it could find some success. Robbie, what do you think?
It sounds a little convoluted. I mean, you're already having to explain the idea of parallel Earths and all that. I know a lot of fans get it, but I just think it would be too much. You know, Superman and Black Adam. Look, I'd love to see that. I'm waiting for the Superman Shazam battle from the end of Kingdom Come. That's what I want to see. But barring that, I mean, they could do all kinds of things. It's just a question of, you have to remember what the audience, the general audience that isn't as steeped in this lore as we are, what they would accept or understand. All right.
Let's see. Next up here, Fehaberfeld writes, the last episode of Watchmen was a masterpiece in visual storytelling. The lynching scene was a punch to the gut. Honestly, one of the best episodes of TV I've seen in my life. I read your tweet. I'm glad you liked it. So the latest episode of Watchmen, which I finally got around to watching, I immediately tweeted, it might be the best episode of television I've seen this year. I don't know that I'd say all time, but it was and I'll tell you what, at the end of the last episode of Watchmen, when they do next time on Watchmen, it's like, I thought it looked stupid. It's like, really, the whole thing is just going to be her going in and out of a phase, going, oh, now I'm experiencing my grandfather's memories. Oh,
I felt the exact same way.
I thought, well, that looks like an episode I could probably skip.
Yep.
And then some people saw it before I did because they saw it the night it aired. And I always watch it the next day. Some people saw it the night it aired and they were like, oh my God, this episode of Watchmen. I'm like, really? All right.
That's what I told you.
That's what you told me too. And I'm like, all right. Holy crap. That episode was bold. It was gutsy. It was imaginative. It was creative. I mean, I'm not going to spoil anything about the episode, but it was, yeah, I think maybe the best episode of TV I've seen this year. It was really fantastic. All right, next up here. Jetfire97 writes, hey, John, your show makes my day. Thank you so much, man. And so do these guilty pleasure movies. Too Fast, Too Furious, X-Men Origins Wolverine, Terminator Genesis, and Transformers 2. Listen, man, that is the proper use of the term guilty pleasure.
Yep. Because
too many people, Rob, they don't know as well as Jetfire does. Too many people say, I have a guilty pleasure movie, Godfather 2. It's not a guilty pleasure movie if everybody loves it. Guilty pleasure movies are movies that almost everybody else hates, and you go, you know what? That's a guilty pleasure movie. Cool as Ice. Vanilla Ice is Cool as Ice. That's a guilty pleasure movie. A lot of people hate Armageddon, so I personally qualify Armageddon as one of my guilty pleasure movies.
Armageddon, by the way, rules.
I'm glad you like it too.
It
so
rules.
Many people get so much hate. I love that movie.
No, but and Transformers 3 Dark of the Moon rules.
You know what? Schnepp liked that movie too.
I love Dark of the Moon.
I hated it, but Dark of the Moon, you, Schnepp liked it. A lot of people. So you know what, Jetfire? We all have our list of guilty pleasure movies. I'm just glad to see that you actually have guilty pleasure movies on your guilty pleasure movie list.
Independence Day Resurgence, dude.
You liked that?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I kind of love it.
No, but I kind of love it. I love that. I know, but I kind of love it. I dig that. Okay, next up. Martin Ashton writes, John, you mentioned yesterday that you didn't like the end of Inception because it didn't answer a question. Can you tell me what you mean by that, as in what wasn't answered? Because I thought it ended perfectly. Well, no, it ends on a cop-out ending. Because, look, I'm not going to worry about spoilers because this movie has been out for years. If you haven't seen it, you clearly don't care about it. But it's the spinning top. Does it or does it not wobble? Because that's not just some question like, we didn't find out who Snoke was in his origins. Who the fuck cares? It doesn't matter. But at the end of Inception, that's the question. That's the movie right there. It defines the entire identity of the movie by whether or not that top is actually still spinning or whether it topples.
But the fact that it's still spinning says something, doesn't it?
But some people say, well, did it kind of? I mean, so I like a lot of questions in my movies, but when you get to the end of it, answer the overall question about the identity and what the movie is. So that drives me to listen, I love Inception. Make no mistake about it. I love this movie. But when the movie ends with us not even knowing what the very nature of it was, we're supposed to be an audience. We don't live in the movie. We're supposed to sit outside like gods and be able to look down into the movie and the narrative and the lives of these characters and know what's happening. And maybe there are parts of movies where we don't, but they need to bring it to resolution by the end. So, I don't know. That always drove me a little bit crazy, but make no mistake, I love Inception. I think the movie's fan. And Rob, I know you've expressed your love for this movie a lot.
I cannot tell people how much I love this movie. I love this movie so much. I saw it at a time in my life where I was a little sad. And I saw it 8 times in the theater because it really spoke to me. The whole idea of loss and what you'd lost and what it meant to you. In my take of the movie is the entire film's a dream. The whole movie. From the first frame to the last frame, he is dreaming the whole time. And it's all about how he comes to grips with loss and that after the movie's over, he's going to wake up and feel better about himself.
All right, next up here, we got Eddie Minty, who writes, great show, guys. Thank you so much, dude. A place where all opinions are valid and there's no wrong answers. My question, Mandalorians can't remove their helmets? How does this differ from Rebels and Clone Wars where we see faces all the time? Any thoughts? Well, listen, that's something actually me and Kyle Newman talked about yesterday. Of course, Kyle Newman, director of the movie Fanboys, which is awesome. You should see it if you haven't. And look, I think there's a lot of questions about this particular conclave, if you will, of Mandalorians. Remember, Mando, the Mandalorian himself, isn't actually Mandalorian. He was clearly found and then adopted into the life of the Mandalorians. So there's that. So what is it about this thing? Because you're right. There seems to be an absolute law. Have you ever taken off your helmet? No. Has it ever been removed from you involuntarily? No. We see Mandalorians with their helmets off all the time. So I think the whole part of that question, Ed, is going to be wrapped up in the identity of who are these Mandalorians. Because listen, we already know from the lore of Star Wars that there are different sects of Mandalorians, right?
These are the fundamentalist Mandalorians.
Yeah, maybe there's that. There's Death Watch, and there's listen, there's a lot of. So I think we need to find out more about this particular offshoot of the Mandalorians to find out more about that, and then we'll get a better understanding about how it connects to the other ones. But you're absolutely asking the right question. Ed Minty also writes, I like the Republic Commandos series of books and how they portrayed the Mandos, and it was hard seeing it all change with CW?
Clone Wars?
With Clone Wars. Do you think they are trying to rectify this as they are seeing a lot more old-style Mandalorian recently? Hashtag dark side, light side. Well... and again, Ed, we're going to answer this question now instead of waiting until next Tuesday to answer the question. The Republic Commandos, though, the series of books, I believe that is pre-Disney. Yes, they aren't actually canon. I mean, that's the underlying thing. They aren't canon. They never were canon. So whatever was in theirs is not that they changed it. It's that it never was. And that's really, really hard because, as a big, huge fan of Last Command and the whole Thrawn trilogy, it's very painful to say, but it is the truth. It's not that they changed it. It's that technically it never was. And remember, those books never were canon in the first place. So it's tough. So we can't look at it in terms of what they changed and what they did not. They move into this. Again, I think the answer is that Mandalorians is not one flat term that has one set of rules that applies to all Mandalorians. I think that was made clear in Rebels and in Clone Wars, and I think it's becoming more apparent in The Mandalorian, so we'll just have to wait and see how they define this group. And then we'll start getting some answers, I think. You know what? As we start just to get the answer to who saved little baby Mando when the super battle droid is about to kill him, I think that's going to start answering the overall question about this particular group of Mandalorians, and then we'll see as we go. All right, just a couple more here before Robert's got to split, and then we'll continue on. GQ writes, do or do none of it. You don't owe this world a thing. I love this quote. Isn't that from Man of Steel? You don't owe this world a damn thing.
Yeah, I think that's what Martha says.
Yeah, I think, you don't owe this world a thing. Pa Kent has some great lines in this movie. Martha, though, also has some really, really great lines.
Plus, Martha's Diane Lane, who can do no wrong.
Who can do no wrong.
All the way back to, like, The Outsiders and Rumblefish. Ooh,
I love Diane Lane. She's amazing. All right, what's next here? Angel Chang writes, I really like Elizabeth Banks, but I actually think going woke affected Charlie's Angels box office and the trailers. Good luck to her and happy holidays. I disagree. I think what hurt the movie was that it was terrible trailers. Terrible trailer. Look, we said going into it, these trailers have not been good. They have simply not been good. There's nothing here to appeal to people to go to them. So I'm going to disagree with you on that because, again, it didn't seem to hurt Captain Marvel at all. So I don't think that's an issue. Brandon Blake writes, I feel like Kyle Newman has thought a lot about Star Wars. I missed Christian, of course, but Kyle was great. Really loving Dark Side, Light Side. Thank you so much, Brandon. Yeah, Kyle is a very knowledgeable. Again, he lives in the Star Wars world, and I don't know what I'm allowed to say. I know he's got a few things going. That's all I'm not gonna say anything more beyond that. But he has always been very plugged in.
Like what? He's going to the dentist?
I cannot say. But if you have not seen his incredible movie, Fanboys, which has William Shatner in it, by the way. I know. If you have not seen his incredible movie Fanboys, you absolutely must watch his movie Fanboys. It is so much fun. And he is a very, very knowledgeable guy. And yeah, absolutely. I love Kyle. And I love whenever I get a chance to get together and chat with him about that kind of stuff. But of course, Christian will be back on Tuesday. All right. Harry Mudd writes, seen Klaus? No, I've been asked that almost every day for the past few weeks. Saw it when it dropped on Netflix and loved it. A nice Christmas movie with lots of heart. I keep hearing amazing things about it, Harry. Amazing. Rob, have you had a chance to see this thing yet?
No, but I'm dying to see it. Elizabeth keeps talking about it, so we're going to watch it this weekend.
Yeah, and I keep having people writing into the show saying they've seen it, they've seen it, and they love it. So I got to get around to it because now Harry's writing in and saying he loves it. So guys, apparently if you haven't seen it yet, apparently this is one you need to get on. So thanks for sending in that recommendation, Harry. All right, last one while Rob is here. Ryan Lohner writes, does Crisis make Lucifer the first TV character? Oh gosh, this again. Does Crisis make Lucifer the first TV character with canon appearances on 3 different networks, Fox, Netflix, and CW? All right. For those of you who don't know what Ryan is talking about, there was a rumor that was started a while ago that Tom Ellis's Lucifer, which is my favorite character on television right now, and one of my favorite shows, and which Aaron Cummings will be in this upcoming season, that Lucifer was going to be in the Crisis on Infinite Earths thing. Where did this come from? It came from some unknown Twitter guy who saw Tom Ellis on or around the set, and instantly everybody jumped to conclusions. And by the way, I don't blame the guy for tweeting it because it's what he saw. He saw a guy on set, so he tweeted it. Nothing wrong with that. But then everybody started running with this thing. Confirmed! Lucifer is going to be on Crisis on Infinite Earths. Let's put this to bed right now. Lucifer is not going to be on Crisis on Infinite Earths. Tom Ellis himself said on Entertainment Tonight, in a video on Entertainment Tonight, sorry fans, no. He explained that. He goes, look, I went to Vancouver one weekend because he's got a ton of people there, but he says, it was my close friend's birthday. I went there one weekend and all of a sudden this happened. He goes, listen, I am absolutely not sorry. No. He said the words, sorry fans, no, hard pass, not happening. So there's no ambiguous thing about this. He is not going to be on. So if you hear other people, everybody, perpetuating this saying, did you know Lucifer is going to be, can you put that to rest? You can go and watch the video of Tom Ellis himself saying it. Sorry, no. Sorry, fans. Not happening. Hard pass. Done. Period. And besides, he's on Fox. He's not on WB. They're not. Anyway, so put that to rest. Rob, have you been following this at all in the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't put anything past him. I don't know. But you know what? If he was, the question that arises for me is there only one hell that services the multiverse? Or are there multiple versions of hell, meaning there's multiple versions of Lucifer? Or is heaven and hell covered throughout the entirety of the multiverse? I need to have this question answered for me now, John.
Well, in the supernatural universe, there are multiple universes and realities where different versions of the Archangel Michael exist and different versions of all the different characters, but only one Chuck, only one God. So, but there are also multiple versions of Satan, of Lucifer.
That's what I'm saying.
So every multiple universe in Supernatural has a different version of Lucifer, but Chuck, who is God in this, he's actually the one God over all of them. So it's kind of weird how they do that.
See, now I want to know, though, in the CW continuity or whatever, is there one hell or is there multiple? You know what? I'm going to write Marv Wolfman a letter.
I am, by the way, far more interested in the notion of them crossing over finally. And they're not doing it. But the supernatural guys in the CW Crisis on Infinite Earths. How awesome would it be with, by the way, Stephen Amell is like best friends with Jensen and Ackles. They are like the three amigos. They're like three best friends. And they've always talked about doing an Arrow and Supernatural crossover. Wouldn't it be awesome if in one of these realities, like to stop something in particular, Sam and Dean Winchester show up? It's all CW.
Well, that would be the funnest, the most fun thing. I would think you could just call up all kinds of shows and go, can we get just one shot as the Earths are getting destroyed, having many different characters from your favorite genre shows as the wave of the antimatter wave crashes through the Earth, just showing whatever characters would send in footage. That'd be the greatest thing I'd ever heard. Ever.
Cool. All right, Rob, listen, I know you got stuff you got to run and do, so we're going to say goodbye to you for now. But listen, dude, and by the way, this is your last appearance for the week.
Oh, my, the last appearance for the month.
Oh, that's right, because Sunday is December 1st, isn't it?
That's right.
So your last appearance for the whole month.
The whole month of November.
But you, of course, will be back again on Monday.
I will.
Which we will see you then. Of course, in the meantime, Rob, where can people follow the exploits of Robert Meyer Burnett?
Well, you can find me at my house contemplating a $50 tip that I'm going to give you because I want to see you make a video just for me. But other than
videos
that,
with you every
other than
day.
that, but I want to come up with a question and make you answer. You can find me on Twitter at Burnett RM, or you can find me on Instagram at RM Burnett, or my own YouTube channel, The Burnettwork, and its adjacent website, theburnettwork.net.
All right, dude. As always, an awesome privilege having Robert Meyer Burnett in the house. And, buddy, have a wonderful weekend. I'm going to Vegas, of course. So.
Well, have fun. We'll always bet on black if you play roulette. That's what I learned from Wesley Snipes and Passenger 57.
I only play poker. I only play poker when I go to Vegas. Yeah, that's the plan. The plan is to win
and look
big.
out for that $50 tip I'm going to send you so I get a video.
Tell you what. How about you just don't invoice me for today's show? And I'll make a video for you.
No, because I want the whole. I want the whole act of doing it. I'm going to see how it works. And I'm going to see how long it takes you to make my video.
Oh, it'll be done right away. It'll be done right away. Anyway, Rob, thanks for being here, dude.
All right,
we'll
man.
talk to you more later.
See you next month.
Next month, indeed. All right, guys, we still got about 20 minutes or so at least keep on going through your live questions here. And we're going to pick things up with Daniel H., who writes, will Godzilla vs. Kong's new release date give it much more box office potential as opposed to its earlier March release date? I don't see a November release date doing the movie any favors besides a chance for more editing and post. I really don't think that was part of the consideration here, Daniel. Now, I don't know for sure. But it does seem to me like the whole thing behind it here is that there is a problem with the film that they need to fix. So I don't think release date, honestly, I think it would have done better in March, but I applaud their commitment to, if they think they need to make the movie better for the audience, I applaud them as a studio just saying, you know what? No, our audience deserves better. We're going to fix these problems and we'll put it out in 8 months. So Yeah, I don't think it's going to do any better because of the release date, but maybe it'll do better because the movie will be better. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Good question, though, man. All right. Man Mountain Gherkin writes, just read on Gus's Beer and Bikinis movie blog that A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood is part of a shared cinematic universe with Mr. Dressup, the polka dot door. Sharon Lois Abram, any truth to this? I don't think Americans had polka dot door. And I don't think Americans had Mr. Dressup either. These are distinctly Canadian things. The polka dot door, the polka dot door. Let's peek through the polka dot door with songs and stories and so much more. Blah, 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 polka dot door. Or something, I don't know. For those of you who are Canadians, maybe you know what it was. It's the Pokeroo. That's right. The Pokeroo. Was the characters there? I can neither confirm nor deny Gus's Beer and Bikinis movie blog's report, except to say that Gus can sometimes be here to minute. I'm just kidding. That's a good one. So no shared cinematic universe for them. Jonathan writes, hey, John, do you think Star Wars Rise of Skywalker should open with Palpatine to hook people in, then split movie between Palpatine and maybe New Apprentice and the heroes 50-50? Something like what Infinity War did, but way less heroes. No, listen, Jonathan, my philosophy of a movie is never to listen, you don't know what this movie is, and I don't know what the movie is. It is folly for us to say, the movie should do this, and then it should do that. No. You don't know what the role of Palpatine in this movie is. So how can we possibly, and I don't know what the role of Palpatine in the movie is. So how can we possibly sit here and say they should start with Palpatine? Well, you don't need to worry about hooking the audience in because they've already bought their tickets and they're already in the theater. So you don't need to worry about that. You need to tell the best story. And if that story would be served by having Palpatine in the opening scene, then do that. But for all we know, that's not the best way to serve the story. Maybe the best way to serve the story is that Palpatine doesn't show up for the first 20 minutes. I mean, so it's impossible for us to say, Jonathan, the movie should open like this, and then it should do this, and then it should do this, because we simply don't know. We have no idea. We have no clue. For all we know, and I want as much Palpatine in this movie as possible. You know that I do. But for all we know, maybe it would be, depending on how this movie is laid out, having Palpatine in the first 15 minutes would be an awful mistake. We just don't know until we see the movie, right? So I do what everybody else does. All of us as film fans, me included, have this horrible, horrible habit of trying to write the movie in our own heads before going in to see it. And then it affects our enjoyment of the film because we start judging the movie based on how it matches up with the movie we've written in our head. And I do it as much as anybody, believe me. But I'm really trying to make a concerted effort the last couple of years to go into movies without doing that, without writing what they should or should not do. So we just won't know, Jonathan, until we see the movie. But it's close. It's close. I'm going to go see it on December 16th. That is the premiere. I'm going to be at the premiere this year. We'll see it December 16th. And then just a couple days after that, the movie drops worldwide, and we'll all know that the answers to those questions. All right, Harry Mudd writes, Joe Pesci made a tour de force return in The Irishman. Same with Pacino and De Niro. I've heard nothing but that, Harry. I've heard nothing but that. And I'm very excited now that it's finally on Netflix that I can sit down and give it a gander and see what all the fuss is about. But again, like De Niro, they're saying is could be a front runner for best lead actor. So we'll have to wait and see. Thanks for that, Harry. All right, Jim Jam Baru writes, Crispin Glover, hey, these guys use my likeness in Back to the Future too. How dare you? James Dean in heaven. Hold my CGI beer. I like that. Yeah, so that was a big point of contention between Crispin Glover and the Back to the Future team because they use his likeness, and that's always been a big thing. I mean, now James Dean. I like how you didn't just have James Dean saying "Hold my beer," James Dean in heaven saying "Hold my beer." I dig that. That's funny. Well said, Jim Jam. All right, Smecky writes, let's give some love to Dutch, the greatest Thanksgiving movie. I will tell you what. That movie's great. For those of you who don't know what Dutch is, and you'll be totally forgiven if you don't, because it was a little film, kind of came and went, never got the attention it deserved. It stars, I believe his name is Ed O'Neill. He's in Modern Family, but he was also the main guy in Married with Children. And he's a guy who's going to get married to this woman, and the woman has a son. This little guy who's her son. And I can't remember the exact circumstances, but it turns out Ed O'Neill and this kid who's his future stepson have to be on the road together, and they're trying to travel someplace to see the mom. And there's tension between the two as he's marrying his mom. I'm telling you what, seriously, I'm so glad. I think you're the first person ever, Smecky, to bring up Dutch on the show. This is such it's a beautiful movie, man. It's a beautiful movie. And it's far deeper and smarter than you might think. And the cover is like Ed O'Neill in a headlock from the kid. It looks like some just kind of throwaway 80s rompy comedy. You know what I mean? But it's got real depth and it's got real heart and it is really funny. And it's a very, very good movie. I'm so glad you brought that up, Smecky. Thanks for that, dude. All right, Harry Mudd writes, The Irishman was a clear 6 on the dice. A tour de force by De Niro, Joe Pesci, Pacino, and Scorsese. Loved every single minute of it. And again, Harry, I'm hearing, listen, even the people, and there's a lot of them, but even the people who are complaining about the length of The Irishman, even those people who are complaining about the length are all also saying, but the movie is freaking awesome. Yes, there are runtime. Some people felt like it's longer than it needed to be, but even those people are saying that is that regardless of that, this movie is great. So I am very excited to finally check it out here, and hopefully I get to do that today. Guad, it's Stone. God, it's Stone Cold. A little bit of Jim Ross there. All right. Are you excited at all about Avatar 2, or do you think it falls short, crawls or power walks past the $1 billion mark? Oh, and can you ask Anne if she could share her top 10 movies of the decade too? Thanks. Well, I don't think Anne's got the time for that. Listen, Avatar 2 to me right now is a little bit of an albatross in the sense that, am I excited about it right now? No. It's just been too many years. It's just been too long since the first Avatar. I just, no. I have no inherent excitement for Avatar 2. That being said, and this movie is still so far away, that will probably change once we start seeing trailers. Look, everybody likes to doubt James Cameron. It's been proven that is the dumbest bet to make in Hollywood. Betting against James Cameron has been proven to be the dumbest bet you can possibly make in Hollywood. So I'm not worried. Like, am I excited for Avatar 2 right now? Answer, honestly, no. But that's right now is not the important time to be asking the question. We'll see how excited I am and all of us are collectively by the time we get a little bit closer to it. It'll go over the billion. I don't see it making $2 billion, but I do see it going over the billion mark because that's just what James Cameron movies do. So that's where I'm at right now. All right, Harry Mudd writes, where are we at? Okay, there we are. Make a Superman movie in the style of the 1965 show Thunderbirds. That would certainly be different. Well, it would certainly be different. I don't know that anybody would actually go see it, though. I think that's part of the problem. I think there are people want to see Superman. You never tell by the box office, but I think people want to see Superman, but I don't think they'd want to see them in that style. It would be different, but different for the sake of being different isn't always a good thing, right? I mean, at least I don't think so. Darth Sidious sends in a really large super chat. Thank you, Darth Sidious, for that. We appreciate the support, man. Darth Sidious writes in, hey, John, just wondering, as we're hearing about a potential Black Superman casting now, do you think that somewhere down the line we might also hear that WB are in talks with somebody to play a Black Batman in the DCU? Again, just like the Superman situation, I'm more of a traditionalist, so if I'm directing it, I get the traditional Caucasian Batman. But there is nothing inherent in the character of Batman that requires the pigmentation of his skin to be a certain color. There's nothing about Batman that makes him important for him to be white. Richie Rich, let's take a fictional character like Richie Rich. The stereotypical, white rich boy, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. That kind of makes it important that I think you lose something in a Richie Rich character if you make that character black or whatever, because I think that is part of the nature of the character. But a character like Superman, the pigmentation, the tone and the pigmentation of Superman's skin color is not at all relevant to the core characteristics of who and what Superman is. And while I would say I would lean more traditional with Batman myself personally and keep him Caucasian, I would also have no problem if they decided they wanted to try something different, because I don't think there's anything core essential about Batman that when you list off all the important traits about Batman and his circumstances, none of it requires him to be Asian. None of it requires him to be, Pakistani. None of it requires him to be white. None of it requires him to be black. So you could do that. It's not what I would do. Not what I would do. But I'd be open to it if they wanted to take a crack at it. I really wouldn't care that much. Harry Mudd writes, I'll be returning to The Irishman, but not for a while yet. 3 hours and 30 minutes is straight. See, even you, Harry, that's what I was just saying, right? Even you, who clearly love the movie, 3.5 longer than 3.5 hours. Over 3.5 hours is, and again, I'm hearing from a lot of people, and I'll judge this for myself when I finally sit down to watch it. But a lot of people I'm hearing who are even raving as this is one of the best movies of the year, saying, yeah, it could have been shortened a bit. It didn't have to be this long for it to be as great as it is. So we'll see. I'll have a chance to watch it myself. But even you loved it, right? You're saying, I really felt that 3.5 hours. All right. Matthew Melograno writes, 3 hours seems too long for a movie. Again, it always depends, Matthew, on the movie. There's no one runtime for any movie. Some movies are too long at 2 hours. Some movies are too short at 2 hours and 55 minutes. Every movie has its own DNA and its own particular runtime. Like this movie would be the best version of this movie at 2 hours and 20 minutes. But that movie would be the best possible version of that movie if it's an hour and 45 minutes, right? So everyone has its own unique length that is right for it. Great movie doesn't mean it should be longer. It also doesn't mean it should be shorter. Every movie has its own specific length. Harry Mudd writes, cut the Snyder release. I like that. It's a little bit of a play on the modern movement. Marvin writes, love from London. Thank you so much, Marvin. Seeing as you're a huge Superman fan, and just like you, I love Man of Steel. My question for you is, have you ever watched Smallville? I'm currently on season 7. I think Smallville is great. I've watched all Smallville. I like Smallville very much. The unfortunate, not every I think even the most diehard of Smallville fans acknowledge there are a couple of seasons that they weren't on their best. But overall, I really enjoyed Smallville. Smallville, and this is where a lot of Smallville fans sometimes get upset with me, because Smallville is an Elseworlds vision of what Superman could have been. It's not Smallville is not Superman. Smallville is an Elseworlds vision and iteration of what Superman could have been. And a lot of people say, no, this is the quintessential Superman, and I disagree with that. I like Smallville very much. I love Tom Welling as in the lead character. I like Michael Rosenbaum as Lex Luthor. I liked it very much. I watched it religiously. But it was never Superman. It was Smallville. And I remember when they were going to do Superman Returns, and they cast Brandon Routh, and a lot of people were very upset. There was this big movement, Tom Welling is Superman. You need to cast Tom Welling as Superman. And I got a lot of Smallville fans mad at me because I was the one common sense voice in the room that was saying, like, guys, this isn't Smallville the movie. This is Superman. It's a different thing. And I know we love Tom Welling as Superman. I did too. By the way, Tom Welling on Lucifer is great. I love seeing Tom Welling on Lucifer, but that's a side issue. But they aren't making Smallville the movie. If they were making Smallville the movie, then yes, you should absolutely go out and get Tom Welling. But they're not making Smallville the movie. They're making Superman. And Smallville isn't Superman. Smallville is an Elseworlds vision of what Superman could have been in a different reality. But it ain't Superman. It's two different things. And they're both great. So, yes, I like the show very, very much, but I often had my fellow fans of Smallville get upset with me because, I had some differing opinions from them on a lot of things. But yes, I loved the show very, very much, even though it had a couple of weak seasons. The King Tut 01 writes, what classic director has since passed would have been a major hit nowadays? Impossible to say. Impossible to say. Because even if you look at something like Hitchcock Look, Hitchcock was just purely a master storyteller. It doesn't matter what era you drop him in. He knew how to tell a story masterfully. The question becomes, would the stories he liked to tell have resonated with the audiences today? And that's a nigh impossible thing to say. You know, Ford, who directed like How Green Is My Valley, and Ford, by the way, who is like, I think the only director ever to win back-to-back Best Director awards. I can't remember. Anyway, brilliant storyteller. But would the stories that he liked to tell have resonated today? And that's a really tough one to answer. But I will go with Hitchcock simply because, like, even when you watch his movies today for the first time, the fundamentals of his storytelling are so solid. I think if any, other different era directors had a chance of having their stuff be big today, it would probably be him. All right. Random dude from Quebec. Quebecois writes, the more I go online, the more I see people wanting Rise of Skywalker to be bad. And it's the same thing with most of my friends. The negativity is strong with them. Yeah, look, that's called having an agenda. There are a lot of people who do approach the next movie with their agenda. Because when you go into a movie, watching a movie and then not thinking it was good and thinking it's a bad movie, that's not an agenda. That's just you watch the movie and it didn't work for you. Nothing wrong with that. Going into any movie actively wanting it to be bad, that means you have an agenda. There's an agenda you have, and whatever this movie is, because you're not hoping it's good. We should hope every movie is good. I go into every movie I see hoping it's good. That's what Rob talks about all the time. When you have anybody in that means you have your own political agenda and you're trying to enforce your political agenda, and therefore you hope a movie is bad and all that kind of stuff. And listen, Rise of Skywalker might be the worst movie of all time. It might be. We don't know. I loved the They Fly Now clip, but I haven't been the biggest fan of the trailers. You guys know this. I mean, I've liked them, but we've talked about the issues I've had with them too. It could be terrible, but I'm hoping it's going to be awesome. Every movie fan going into every movie should hope the movie is awesome. And then we watch the movie and decide if it is awesome or not. But those are two different things. But yes, random, there are a lot of people out there with an agenda. And it is what it is. So just because you don't like a movie doesn't mean you have an agenda. That just means you watched the movie and didn't like it. But again, if you're going into a movie thinking that I hope this movie's bad, I want this movie to be bad, well, then that's just a clear sign. You might as well put a big postcard sign over yourself that says, I have an agenda. So it is what it is. All right. Russell Amador writes, hey, John, have you seen Good Time? Oh, yeah, we talked about that on the movie quite a bit. I'm late to the party, and by late, I mean 2 years late. But man, that movie's a roller coaster with a solid performance from our new Batman. Listen, Good Time is one of the films that gets brought up a lot about Robert Pattinson. But there's a bunch of them. And we've talked on this show, we've run down this laundry list of this huge list of movies that he's done that are just phenomenal. And even the movies themselves that aren't phenomenal, Robert Pattinson has been phenomenal in them. And that's why there are a bunch of people that when they announced Robert Pattinson went, oh my God, this could be brilliant. And everybody went, wait, brilliant? The Twilight guy? You're thinking this is going to be a brilliant Batman? Okay, you've clearly not seen the 5 or 6 films, particularly these sets of 5 or 6 films that he has done as indie films before that. And we've talked about all of them at length here on the show. But yeah, that's definitely one of them, Russell. That is definitely one of them. All right. Sujith writes, is Rian Johnson a contender for Best Director nomination? I don't know. It is tough. Because right now, when you're looking at Best Director, one is going to be Martin Scorsese for The Irishman. Noam Baumbach is going to be probably nominated for Marriage Story. Bong Joon-ho is probably going to be nominated for Parasite. There's a lot of talk right now about Sam Mendes for 1917. I would not nominate Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I would nominate him for other movies of his, but not this one. But Hollywood loves movies about Hollywood. So you got to consider that Tarantino might get one. James Mangold is getting a lot of consideration for Ford v Ferrari. Todd Phillips is obviously getting a lot of consideration for Joker. Jay Roach is getting consideration for Bombshell. Speaking of movies that Robert Pattinson was in, Benny and Josh Safdie for directing Uncut Gems, Taika Waititi for Jojo Rabbit, Lulu Wang for The Farewell. It's just stacked. So could Rian Johnson's name slip in there for a Best Director nomination? It's possible, but it's just such a stacked category this year. I would say it probably is not going to happen. All right, let's see here. Anonymous writes, hey, John, first time super chatter here. Thank you so much, Anonymous. I just wanted to let you know how much this show has impacted me. It has led me to embrace my passion of cinema, and I've even switched my major in college to something that will get me a job in entertainment. Well, dude, seriously, thank you so much for that. And I'm so... It's honoring that you would say something like that. Like, seriously, I'm overwhelmed with a sense of honor. Thank you so much for that. And good luck to you, my friend, in that endeavor. And thank you for being part of our film fan community. And thank you for being a part of our show. So again, thanks so much for that. And good luck with whatever it is you're going to be pursuing, man. I encourage you in that. All right. Eli McRibs writes, not to be racist, but I don't want a black Superman. Okay. I'd be curious to know why. But hey, you do or you don't. That's up to you. Dr. Soccer just sends in a tip. Thank you so much, Dr. Soccer. I appreciate that. Thomas Soley writes, Michael B. Jordan would make a great Green Lantern. Well, that's been thrown out there too. A lot of people, of course, mentioning him as Stewart, so maybe there's that. But would people still say that if he was Hal Jordan? Actually, I think he would make a pretty good Hal Jordan too, but that's just me. David Rivas writes, GMA will debut No Time to Die trailer on December 4th. Yeah, Robert and I were talking about that just for it because, he's been dying to see this trailer. The only reason I think it's kind of late is because normally the normal operating procedure is you drop a poster and then the next day you drop a trailer. And they dropped a poster weeks ago and then made us wait a long time for the trailer. But hey, at least we're getting it. Phoenix Clouden writes, over under 50%. We get 10 nominations for Best Picture this year. I'll go under 50%. I'm going to guess 9 nominees, but I'm not saying 0. I'm just saying under 50. So maybe a 30% chance we do. So I'll go under on that. Harry Mudd writes, Her is so good. Scarlett's voice is so luscious. Listen, there was actually, a lot of people forget, there was actually a lot of buzz and a lot of talk that maybe Scarlett Johansson could get a Best Actress nomination just for doing the voice in Her. She didn't get a nomination, but there was a lot of talk that there was a possibility she almost got one. So it's just an interesting thing. Sam O writes, are you going to do a review of The Irishman soon? Well, I have to see it first. So yes, once I see it, I will do a review of The Irishman. Wayne Edwards sends in a really large super chat. Thank you, Wayne, for supporting the channel on that level, man. We appreciate that. There are old pilots and there are bold pilots, but there are very few old, bold pilots. From a 1979 sci-fi gem I love on Disney Plus. By the way, Rob, will get it. Not sure about John. I don't recognize that one. And I think you're probably right, Rain. I think you're probably right, Wayne. I think if Rob was still here, he probably would get that one. I don't personally recognize the quote. Sounds like a really great quote, though, but I don't recognize it myself on that level. But if Rob was here, I'm sure he would. But that is one of the great things about the Disney Plus channel, right, Wayne? Is that it's got all this stuff on there. Like Rob has been talking on the show too about all these great movies he's getting to revisit because of it and all that kind of stuff. So that's just awesome. So thank you for the quote, man. And it probably there's a bunch of people watching the show right now who know exactly what movie you're talking about. I'm just not one of them right now. All right. David Rivas writes, number 10, probably talking about this year. Peanut Butter Falcon. Number 9, Hustlers, which was so much better than I thought it would be, honestly. Number 8, Endgame. Number 7, Aladdin. I loved Aladdin. Number 6, Knives Out. Love Knives Out. Number 5, Booksmart. Number 4, The Irishman. Number 3, Ford v Ferrari. Number 2, Joker. And number 1, Jojo Rabbit so far for 2019. And yeah, I've got a number of those. I've got Jojo Rabbit in my top 5. I've got Ford v Ferrari in my top 5. Booksmart was just knocked out of my top 5. I've got Knives Out in my top 5. But yeah, I mean, again, Peanut Butter Falcon is the one there that I need to still see. Aladdin is I think Aladdin might go down as my favorite pleasant surprise movie of the year. Because even though I'm a big fan of Guy Ritchie, because I love his movies. Not every single one of them, but generally I love Guy Ritchie's movies. It just seemed like an odd fit. Guy Ritchie directing Aladdin. It didn't seem like a good fit. You know what I mean? And yet, the movie was so delightful. I enjoy that movie so much. And yeah, so anyway, that's me. Thanks for the list, David. Appreciate that. Daniel Hinoja writes, Is it wrong that I have no problem separating the art from the artist? Kanye, Spacey, etc. What matters most to me is an entertaining product. No, there's nothing wrong with that. That is however your head works. So for instance, the way my head works is a little bit differently. And it's not right or wrong. Take Kevin Spacey's for example. I don't think I could watch a new Kevin Spacey project. I don't think I could watch a new thing from him. Yet, I have no problem going back and watching Usual Suspects or any of his other movies that all occurred before the controversy. There's just something about the way my brain is wired that those movies are already set in my head, and I already separate them from the dude and his actions and all that kind of stuff. And so I can sit down and watch one of his older films, whether it's, Pass It Forward or whatever, and have no problem with it. But I know I wouldn't be able to watch something new with him. And I've got no explanation for that. I have no idea why my brain is wired that way. So, there's nothing wrong. If your brain is wired that way, that when you see the screen, you don't see the actor, you just see these characters. That's all you see is the characters. Nothing wrong with that. It's just that your brain works a little bit differently than mine, and mine works a little bit differently from a lot of other people's. Let's see. Huvos Rancheros writes, saw Meet Joe Black. That's a nice little film. The other day. Why did they make the scene where Brad gets hit by the cars so ridiculous? Do you think it was intended to be funny? I've always thought it was a silly choice. Well, listen, dude, I'm going to be honest with you. It has been over a decade since I've seen that movie. Well over a decade. Pitt, Anthony Hopkins, but it's been a long time since I've seen that movie, man. So I cannot remember the specifics of that one scene. It's just been way too long. And for those of you who don't know, like Joe Black is, well, should I spoil it? Well, no, yeah, you find out he's death, basically. And anyway, I don't remember the specifics of the scene. It's just been too many years, dude. It's a great looking question, but I don't know how to approach it because I can't remember the specifics of the scene. Sorry about that, dude. Seth writes, what did you guys think of Toy Story 4? I really personally enjoyed it and thought that it completed Woody's arc overall in the movie. I love Toy Story 4. Toy Story 3 is still my favorite of the Toy Story movies. So let's just be really clear about that. Toy Story 3 is still my number one of all the Toy Story movies. Absolutely. But Toy Story 4 is right on par with 1 and 2 to me. It was completely worthy of the Toy Story name to me. And you're right. It wraps up, in as much as Toy Story 3 wrapped up Andy's story, Toy Story 4 wrapped up Woody's. Which makes me believe that we're never going to see Toy Story 5. And if they do, it'll be without Woody. But yeah, it was a great conclusion to Woody's story. I enjoyed the film very, very much. Thanks for that, Sean. All right. Eric DeRiggi writes, happy Thanksgiving, Gio and Ann and the John Campea Show. By the way, Ann has no E on the end, just so you know. Happy Thanksgiving, Gio and Ann and the John Campea Show crew. Thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate that, man, very much. All right, and now our final question of the day comes to us from Suthius, who writes, hey, guys. If you go into your memory bank and think about the final battles in each of the Spider-Man movies, 6 of the 7 took place at night. Final battle with Mysterio was the only one in the daytime. Thought this was a neat little observation. You know what? I've never even considered that. And I think that's true. I think you're right. If that is true, and I think you're probably right that it is, off the top of my head, I could probably think of a couple of reasons about why that might be. One is things just look more dramatic at night. So it's more cinematic, that sort of thing. The other possibility about why that might be that comes to mind is that visual effects wise, there's probably a lot more you can get away with if the scene is at night, as opposed to it being in the daytime. It might be a little easier to do those big visual effects in nighttime shots than it is with daytime shots. Maybe, I got a feeling it's probably more night is just more dramatic. That's probably more the answer to that than the whole idea about the ease of visual effects, but it could be both at the same time. But that is a very interesting observation that I did not even consider. That's a good thought. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you guys so much for being here and being a part of the show and making this show a part of your day. Again, I want to remind everybody that tomorrow, there is going to be a John Campea show in the morning. Yes, there is. I'm going to leave for Vegas right after we do the show, but we're still going to do the show first. For those few of you who just want to get together, you got the day off tomorrow, you want to get together and talk movies. Well, guess what? We're going to be here and we're going to do that tomorrow. So if you want to send in questions early for tomorrow's show, you guys can just go ahead, use that link that's in the top line of the video description, and you can send in a question early for tomorrow's show, and we will get to it just as soon as we do the show tomorrow. Special thanks to Robert Meyer Burnett for being here, being his awesome self as he always is. Thank you to all you guys for making this a part of your day and being part of the film fan community. And a special thanks to all of you guys who sent in those live questions, not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also because you supported the channel while you were doing that. And all of us here at the John Campea channel, thank you very much for supporting the show that you like watching. So thank you so much for that, guys. And for those of you who are Patreon supporters, by the way, and members of the Discord server, don't forget, about 15 minutes after we're done the show today, we are going to do a John Campea Show post-show chat over on the Discord server. I hope to see all of you guys who are Patreon supporters there. All right, guys. That will do it for me for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.